Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 51, part C. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the CGS forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. This iron curtain of time sounds ominous indeed, but before we can study it, we must hold our regular meeting at the Legion Bylaws Command. So says the sensei of the whatnot Segulin. Showcase Legion. I'm really at the tail end of it, and I've been reading multiple issues because I want to get this finished. And when I do a showcase book, I'm jumping between multiple books that I'm reading for the month to stay current with the universe, and I jump back to the showcase. I'm one issue away from finishing Showcase Legion, and I came across this story. The Time Trappers set up this barrier, which they know is going to lead to some major problem. They know he's planning something. Instead of continuing this, they have to stop and hold a meeting. I'm like sitting here, I'm like, you're doing what? You know the Time Trapper's planning this. And wait, the issue goes on, they go on to another event, because these two are going to continue like trying to figure out what's going on with that. They have this whole great story with Dream Girl. It was Dream Girl's first appearance in the particular issue we're talking about, where she's being manipulated. And it was really cool. So it was a great story. I'm not knocking the story, but it was one of those moments, it was very Silver Agey. They did what? Okay. It was a very Silver Agey moment, but it was a lot of fun. The story with Dream Girl was absolutely outstanding because it was one of those ones where you're not sure how to feel about her and where it's going to go. But for those of you that like Dream Girl, it was, again, that book is so filled with so many Legion first appearances that anybody who is a first-time Legion reader and wants to get into some of these characters and see some of their background, pick up Showcase Legion. This may be my favorite Showcase book now, Jim. I'm having so much fun with it that there's been certain issues that I've actually read twice. I've gone back through and reread them. And usually with the Showcase one, just because of how big the tomes are, I keep going because I want to get through the whole thing. This one, there's actually been times where I've stopped and reread something because, what? What just happened here? And I went back and reread it because I enjoyed it so much. So it's definitely one that I can recommend.
Holy tangents, Batman. This is our opening.
Well, just to tell you, this is actually going to be a very different opening. We're counting this as one episode. This is actually the second part of episode 51B. We haven't done this in so long, Jim. Usually, we record separate episodes. Because of the fact that you and I had to scramble and get something together, I made sure the last part was like about an hour and a half so I could edit it and get it out so that way our listeners who've been waiting patiently had something there. We're going to be finishing on this a countdown discussion. We're going to talk about at least 2 issues of Countdown. Depending on how long our conversation takes, we might hit a third. We also have a B-Case Bullets from Brent Cassina that we want to get on. Jim and I are going to be back then with a JLA discussion, with JLA 11 and 12 with special guest Art Lyon. Little kooky. Our ad actually is going to be at the end of this. It's going to be a continuation of our ad from last time, and our closing is going to be normal. This is midway through an episode, so you're right. What a tangent. Jim, let's talk Countdown.
Yeah.
All right, Jim, you're on. We're countdown 36, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm still laughing at you, though.
Oh, spoiler warning. You got to do a spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning. We are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we are reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
No cuckoo and all that stuff anymore?
Well, hold on. I do have a couple other ideas that I will throw out when people are least expecting it. I did those because that was episode 50. Yeah, it was episode 50, even though it wasn't our 50th recording. So I've got other ideas. I'm not going to do it every single time. You never know when it's going to happen. Out of left field, it'll hit you. That's just how
craziness.
I roll.
All right, let's talk Countdown.
Let's talk Countdown. Our next discussion is on Countdown number 36. The writer is Paul Dini with Tony Bedard. Pencils by Jim Calfiore. Inks by Jack Purcell. Colors by Tom Chu. Letterer Ken Lopez. Covers by Shane Davis and Matt Benning with Alex Sinclair. Assistant editors of Schaefer and Garland. And editors Martz and Carlin. We open up with the Fab
wait,
Four.
Before we open up, I want to comment on something on this one?
Okay.
I don't always comment on the covers. And the reason why is I like to save that when there's covers that really hit me. This is another one, Davis and Banning. The cover art on this one, Mary is pulling Zatanna out of the hat. I had this on my PS3. I talked about this last time. This was on my PS3 background for quite a while as well. It is gorgeous. I really, really liked this background. It was a little kooky. It was a little strange. It was one of them when my wife walked into the room, she looked at it funny. It was just a great cover, and I just wanted to rant about it a little bit because if you haven't gone to dccomics.com, any of you, obviously if you're listening to this, you have some form of computer or technology that you're downloading podcasts from. If you are looking for great wallpaper for your computer, dccomics.com does a wonderful job of updating the covers, where every week you're getting new stuff. So I urge you to go to their website. I go there all the time, and they have different resolutions. So whatever size monitor you have, or if you're using a game system, or whatever way you're doing that, they have very different resolutions on there. So the download size matches whatever size you need, and the work's done for you. So it's cool. So I highly recommend visiting dccomics.com, checking out the download section for some of the great artwork that's there. Because the covers that are coming out lately on so many different books are beautiful, and they're really featuring them there. So, and rant.
Okay.
Carry on.
We open up the issue with the Fab Four, Donna, Jason, Ryan, and Bob. And they're dealing with some bug people. Really cool, just flow from 35 right into this. 35 kind of tease, set up, a pretty good fight scene. This jumped right into it. And they're throwing down with some pretty serious magic that packs a pretty good punch, because one of the blasts Donna and knocks her back and knocks her down. So right there, these aren't just little small bug creatures. There's going to be something to deal with, and especially as this issue goes on, we see what they throw down with. It's kind of a cool opening, just a boom, right out the pop.
And you know what, for me, I love the Jim Calafiore art. It's one of the things that's totally drawing me in on this. Purcell and Chu really complement his style. This is an artist I want to see more of. Gotham Underground is going to be really sharp from this guy. The action sequence with Donna fighting, it was so well drawn. It just was, that was the part that I focused on. Like, what's Donna doing? This is awesome. This is a great scene. So it really is artwork. These are my favorite Countdown issues so far, the ones that Jim Calafiore is drawing. It's an artist, like I said, I keep referring back to his days on Aquaman. It's an artist that I really enjoyed on the Peter David run, and it's a guy, when I see his work, I notice it right away. He's got a very definitely definable style, and it just looks great in this particular book.
Agree. We've next flow right back into Piper and Trickster. They're still trapped by Poison Ivy. It's kind of funny because as she's sitting there, questioning them, the pheromones that she's kicking off really have Trickster smitten, but of course Piper is immune because he's not going to be interested in a female, which I kind of laughed at when they did that he was able to, flow throughout it. Another cool stuff, though, with the rogues, with this, the way they're writing them. They're not, yes, they're the Flash rogues, which traditionally people kind of look at some bumblers, but these are still some serious villains who are thinking. They know what they're doing, and this whole segment was really cool because Ivy's sitting there debating what she's going to do with them. Then she says she's going to wait until her partner gets there to question him. Trickster jumps right on top of that, keeps his cool, says, oh yeah, that's cool. That's who we're waiting for. He invited us here.
Dude, even under her spell,
yeah,
the Trickster's kicking into survival mode. And that was the part I'm like, wait a minute. He was just under her spell, and he's still the Trickster. He's still thinking ahead, like, how am I going to get out of this? Clearly smitten over this girl still, but look what he's doing. He buys them some more time. And that's what the Trickster's all about. How can I survive to the next phase? How can I keep surviving? And that's what you'll see, that theme occurring over and over again with this character. I am so digging this guy.
Yeah, he's a scrambler. He's, going to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And I'm really starting to dig that about this guy. Plus, other stuff, like she's, as he's saying this, she starts pushing him for a name, saying, okay, well, if you're here to meet him, what's his name? He's like, hold on, I'm not going to say a name. If I say that, he'll think I can't keep a secret. And he kills people for less. He has no idea who she's dealing with, but he knows he's got to be a major heavy league villain who would kill somebody for that. beautiful, just, manipulation of the scenario. Outstanding.
And very general, that could apply to a lot of people, but at the same time, makes you put a big question mark. And that's what I loved about it, because there are a number of players. It could apply to a Luthor. It could apply to a Joker. It could, you can start running off the list of people that would do this. And, a Brainiac even. So it's, to a certain extent, even a Grodd. So you've got a number of players that comment could apply to, but it's just enough to add a shadow of doubt, and that was cool.
Oh, yeah. And I know, this issue really is just an outstanding flow from boom to boom to boom to boom. Because we start off with the bang with the Fab Four. Then we go to kind of like a mental game with the Rogues. Then we shift into Mary Marvel and Z. Mary is with Z. She's reading. She's starting to get bored. It's like all she's doing is just reading these old books. She wants to do something, so she lashes out at Z. And Z is basically like, hold on, you got to run before you can walk. Wait, hold on. So you have to walk before you can run. But, and this, of course, just gets Mary even more upset. She wants action. She wants to do something with it. She sees this various What?
Earth 53. What not world? Baby, start by running.
Oh, God.
This is the new multiverse.
You know what I meant? I was hoping you didn't catch it.
What not world?
I was hoping you'd just let that go and just let us move on and not, get snagged up with that. Okay, obviously that didn't work out well. Okay, so Mary's getting upset, and she starts seeing all these various talismans in the room. And she wants to, hey, what's this? What's this? And Z says that would be like giving a loaded gun to a child. And Mary just lashes out, and says, I am not a child, as some lightning bolts, kazap, send books flying at Z.
Mary's a brat, dude.
Oh, big time.
There are no two ways about it. She reminds me of Osiris in the ways that she's wanting to avoid the learning and get to the fighting. I want to see her overcome all this somewhere during the storytelling. I'm enjoying it a great deal. But I want this journey to be about Mary discovering the strength inside, and that's the great thing about this build right now. It's setting up a situation where we can see that. She's almost like an addict, but that's, looking for the next power fix, but that's a little bit too simple. It's just one of those things that I got out of this whole thing, and it's when she's in Mary mode, and we're going to start seeing the distinction between Mary, Black Mary mode. She's in Black Mary mode, and we're going to see the distinction between the two coming very soon. And that's what I really like about this.
A couple things that struck me as interesting. Before Mary lashed out and sent the books flying, she was in civilian form. She was in civilian clothing. But bam, she kicked it into Black Mary mode, in costume, without saying Shazam, without saying any magical words or anything like that. She was just, boom, in power. I also noticed her hair color changed. She had, when she was in civilian clothing, she had a nice light brown color hair, but when she goes to Black Mary, it's that dark brown black look to her. So it's like we're definitely, not only personality-wise, physically-wise, we're seeing these are two separate entities, two separate people inside one body, and that's kind of curious to see what exactly is Mary Marvel. What has she become? Because she's not just Black Adam. She's not just Isis. She is something else. As they start fighting out, Mary grabs the scepter that's in the room, and it's kind of a bit amusing as just the look on her face as she gets like this rush of power from it, and it's kind of like a junkie taking a hit. She's like, oh yeah, this is what I want. This is the kind of power that I want to embrace and all that kind of stuff. She's going beyond what the true purpose and true point behind magic is. She's looking for the ultimate rush. She's looking for that bam, blast kind of mentality.
It's funny, in her thirst for getting power back, because she lost it, I think the trauma of losing all that made her want to be Mary Marvel again so bad that she forgot what made her a hero. And I think we're going to see her discover that again along the way, where the real Mary's going to come through and she's going to realize what's important and who she really is out of all this. And that's the journey I want to see happen here. I don't want this to end a tragic story for her. The more this is going on, the less I want to see her remain Black Mary. The more I want to see her be a distinction between what Teth Adam is and between that philosophy. I want her to see in the end that she's not that same person. And I don't want to see her powerless out of this, but I want to see Mary Marvel back again after this. I'm not saying, and it's funny, when this started, I loved the whole idea of her staying as Black Mary. Now as it's continuing, I'm not saying that I would be against her keeping the Black Adam powers, but to me, if she keeps them, what I want to see from her is very much going to change what Black Mary would be, and I almost want to see those powers then go back to Teth Adam.
Yeah, see, I'm on the fence really with Mary Marvel, and one time when I read it, I'm like, I want Mary Marvel to come back and be the Marvel family. Then on another side, I'm like, I want to see Black Mary as a villain. I want to see her completely cross over the line and be one of Freddy's or Billy's or someone's main villain. It's weird. As I'm reading through one part of the comic, I'll say, oh man, I want to see the real Mary Marvel come back. Then I'm like, no, I want to see the evil Mary. No, I want to see a mesh between them, kind of like a good Mary Marvel who's still a little bit on the dark side. I'm really up on the fence with her. I don't know where I want her. That's part of the excitement behind reading the stuff about Mary is I don't know where it's going to go, and I want to see the journey. I want to read and experience who she is now.
We're definitely talking Countdown number 35 next, and during that, there's key moments that change this tune for me.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why right now, because I know we're talking about both these issues, these are definitely issues where I had one belief on what I wanted from Mary Marvel, and where I was a lot more comfortable with her staying Black Mary. My tune completely changed with issue 35. And we'll get to that when we get to issue 35. But
yeah,
it's one of those stories, I am so glued to following this right now because I want to see where her journey's going. I'm invested heavily.
I tell you though, Z has probably one of the coolest lines in the book. Right at this, right when she and Mary are about to really throw down. He goes, I thought you might be some type of sorcerer savant, but it turns out you're just a brat and you're about to get spanked. I read that, I was like, cool. We are setting up for a serious throwdown here, and that's the part of the thing I'm digging about these next couple issues of Countdown. It's a build through several issues of action and whatnot.
Cool.
This heads right into Mr. Action. He is standing before the JLA with Soup next to him, and we have probably some really cool inner dialogue. Finally, I am where I belong, aboard the Justice League satellite with my best pal at my side, ready to accept my place among the world's greatest superheroes. Batman completely kills the moment for him by saying, will someone tell me how this isn't a massive waste of time? Outstanding. Just, he's all pumped up and complete deflated. And this is some of the cool stuff with Mr. Action.
Imagine this is your tryout with the JLA. Then all of a sudden, your bubble gets completely burst. And you get embarrassed. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you recover from that? Batman just completely dished you in front of everybody. There is no recovery from that. It's like the kid at school that gets pants ripped or something like that.
Yeah. You just got pants.
You're done. You're done.
Yeah. You just got pants in front of the entire school at the auditorium. There's no recovery from it. Now, the only negative thing I'm going to say is we don't really see how Jimmy got his opportunity, to his audition for the JLA. In the previous issues of Countdown, it looks like he basically, is when he revealed to Clark that he knew he was Superman. And in a way, it kind of appeared like he was blackmailing him to get into the JLA. But in truth, it was in Action Comics 854, because we saw Mr. Action take down this 50-foot kryptonite-charged monkey, but he did it without throwing a single punch. He saw this monkey was scared, and because of its kryptonite charging and whatnot, it had grown, and it was getting bigger, and it was just reacting out of fear. Jimmy saw this. He saw, like, hey, calm down, buddy, and he was able to basically talk down the monkey and get him to shrink back down to size, and it was a really cool moment showing what is the nature of a hero. It's not just someone who's got muscle and power who can grow to super size and beat up the villains. It's the person who can recognize what is going on and and defuse a situation, and not necessarily without the violence. It was a cool moment because it showed who Jimmy is. It showed who Mr. Action could be towards the team, and I wish somehow that could have been incorporated into the Countdown story.
Poor Jimmy.
Yeah.
He is one of those characters that's real tragic in this whole thing. He is the human face of Countdown right now.
Oh, big time.
He's definitely our connecting character.
Oh, big time. You see him and you think, this is, if I got his powers, if I had his sudden knowledge and everything, that would be me. Now, granted, I would like to think I would choose a better name than Mr. Action and a better costume than that, but I don't know. Is the Sensei Whatnot that much better than Mr. Action?
No. But yet equally compelling for strange reasons. So, like, the funny part is, I got to be honest with you, the Mr. Action thing to me, the second that he picked it, it sounded very Jimmy, very Silver Age, which totally fits where his powers are coming from. And the fact that when I was reading The Amazing Transformations, you find out in The Amazing Transformations of Jimmy Olsen that Mr. Action has a history there, that name is something that Jimmy's had before, it adds to it. It adds like a little bit of history to it. So it's cool. Sensei Whatnot is all kinds of other issues. Wait, no better than Dr. Norge.
True. Okay.
Actually, arguably yours has more flair.
Sweet. I have more flair. Woo!
Oh, my.
Wrestling fans will understand that joke. Next, we flow right into Karate Kid and Una as they arrive at Dr. Orr's base, which turns out to be a deserted Air Force base. They walk right through an open gate, and Una makes a comment how shouldn't a man with so many secrets to protect have some type of security system? They give an answer really quickly as a big, nasty dude with claws, Equus, arrives and attacks them. I tell you, this fight sequence that we're about to see, and really sold me on Val and the Karate Kid. We saw him before when he went toe-to-toe with Batman, just how good he is. But in a way, you look at it, you think, Batman is yes, he is disciplined, yes, he is Batman, but he's still just a man. This Equus is a cybernetically enhanced super being that's gone toe-to-toe with Superman, and Val completely just kicks his butt. He opens up with, just hitting precision strikes, pressure points, and not only just human pressure points, he recognizes that Equus is cybernetic, so there's going to be some mechanical enhancements right in with the human or physical being side of him, so he's striking at those strategic spots and doing some serious damage. Equus is completely shocked by the fact that Val doesn't have any enhancements. He's not a meta. He's not anything, yet this dude is taking him down. So he kind of shifts it with a little ace up his sleeve and goes after Una, basically saying, surrender or your girlfriend gets pulped.
Dude, the Orr bits, one of the cool things about that was that Orr wasn't just doing nothing. Orr was sitting there analyzing this fight. And when he was doing that, it was actually, that was even more compelling to me than the fight. Because I'm watching this guy and I'm like, information's a high commodity. And he is taking advantage of this situation to learn as much as he can about Val, to use it at some point. And if necessary. And that's one of the cool things I liked about Orr. He's a thinking man's villain. Or a thinking man's whatever he is. I'm not quite sure what he is. And that's kind of the cool thing. With him, he's got a gray area. So it's not even fair to call him a villain right now. We don't know what he is.
Very, quite contrary. You have no idea why you are acting this way. That was Eclipso, and she's saying that as she's watching the fight between Mary and Z. And this, for me, was a really cool moment to see that not only is Mary being influenced by the power of Black Adam, but also by Calypso. Plus, it's also really cool to see that Eclipso notices how Z is holding back against Mary, which is a huge mistake because Mary's playing for keeps. She is not holding back. She is going for kill shots. Z is still trying to contain Mary. She's trying to, deal with her as if it's Mary Marvel, not as if it's Black Mary, not as if it's a villain she needs to take seriously and/or a potential life-threatening adversary.
How much is Eclipso already influencing Mary? That was the big question I had during that fight. How much of it is Black Adam's power that's tainting her? And what's the real story here? Was Mary out to kill her? And I was watching them like, whoa, wait a minute here. It was really just kind of a twisted segment that totally fit what Mary's been going through and a nice build to it.
Oh, dude, no doubt in my mind that Mary was out to kill her. She was in a blood rage. She was going on how Z just brought her there to steal the power of Black Adam. And as she keeps blasting Z with lightning bolts, she sends Z flying across the room. There's even a point in the fight where Z tells Mary, please stop. But Mary moves in. She moves in for the kill and says, don't worry, Z. It'll be over before you know it. Classic just villain rant right there. This isn't Mary Marvel, the good guy. This is Black Mary, a villain. Wow, this is cool, especially knowing we knew before, but now we have 100% confirmation that it is Eclipso, pushing, twisting, and manipulating, the scene. So, for me, this whole fight scene between these two was just a wow moment.
Yeah, that is, I gotta say right now, Black Mary is my favorite storyline in Countdown.
Yes and no. My favorite is still the Rogues. They are still my favorite story. Black Mary is definitely up there. These issues of Mary are outstanding, and some future stuff that we're probably not going to discuss this episode, are really cool. So yeah, she is one of the high top ones, but the Rogues are still the best, I think. This leads back into the Fab Four, and they're getting their butts handed to them. Ryan tries to go to grab his bang stick, but obviously, the leader of the bug people grab it and lets them know that they're not going anywhere. The Fab Four was really a limited focus in this issue, but these were great setups for what's to come. When I say setups, I don't even want to say trivialize what we saw, because these were some great, really, bam, wow, there's some really cool action sequences and some cool fight scenes, but story development, it's just the beginning of the story. So
I like that, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's one of it's where I think Countdown, we've talked about this before, and it's something our listeners have mentioned too. I think it's where Countdown is improving. I think that making two storylines the major focus of the issue, or even three at the most, the major focus of a particular issue, I think is giving more screen time to those storylines, taking some of the bits and putting them in the backgrounds, because the Mr. Action stuff was a smaller part in this one,
yeah,
but it was very well done. The Fab Four, as you're mentioning, these challengers, this storyline was a little bit smaller in this, but it needed to be. And they're good, kind of here's what's going on with them right now. There's still something going on. It just shows that the timeline of Countdown's a little bit different than how they handled it in 52. And I think this is a much more appropriate way to give characters like the Mary Marvel bits were so much more interesting because there was more screen time. The Rogues bits were so much more interesting in this because there's a little bit more screen time. These are stories that needed to be developed right now. And then when they switched the focus to a little bit more Mr. Action, when they switch the focus to a little bit more challengers, those storylines are a lot more compelling because you get a little bit more meat to those storylines and the issues that they're in. So I like the way that they're kind of flip-flopping between the focus on these storylines, but from issue to issue, it's making me more into them.
Agree 100%. And it's part of the thing that we're seeing in a lot of these Countdown stories for me are the segues are really feeding one to boom, 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 boom. So it's like one giant issue. It's not separate story arcs, even though they're not actually telling part of the same story. It just, they blend and they mesh together, so it seems like they are. And definitely some cool stuff going on here. The issue ends off with Piper and Trickster. They're released from the vines, but Ivy is still watching them and telling the vines not to let them go anywhere. So it's kind of cool that she's kind of trusting them, but she's not just being, oh, okay, whatever, do whatever you want. She's still a rogue. They're still rogues. You still have that mistrust. Trickster tries to find out what the big score is, which immediately puts Ivy on the offensive. Piper jumps in, covers by saying, it's okay, he's not the brains of the operation, but he'll do what he's told. Once the big guy gets here, everything will be cool. Then off camera, you hear, I am here, and everything is far from cool. We see who the mystery partner is, and it's Deathstroke. Steps out, sword drawn with, I tell you, he made just the cool, I want this when he comes out as a poster. It just looks so cool. Plus, it had some great Deathstroke lines. You want to explain what these two cretins are doing here, or should I just skip ahead to the part where I hack off all of their limbs? As he's standing there, sword pointing at him, the background is like the whole Ivy kind of floral greenery, then you got Deathstroke right there. Boom, bam, great ending to an issue.
You know what? Deathstroke looks like such a badass in this whole thing.
Oh, big time.
What a great stopping point for this issue, because it obviously is starting to lead towards Green Arrow and Black Canary, which I really liked how, it was kind of a neat little side story that leads into that event, and just kind of shows how the rogues seem to be just keep dropping into the wrong place at the wrong time. It's all of this is being told from their perspective. So you get to see events that are currently happening in the universe from their angle. This is how the rogues are fitting into all these things. We don't see them in those actual issues as a featured piece. They're featured in Countdown, and we're seeing their eye view of what's going on in the universe. So if you're not actually reading those events, you're not missing anything, because this is all about how the rogues are seeing them. And I like that change of perspective here, just to see everything through their eyes. But I mean, run-ins with the Flash, with the Penguin, with Poison Ivy. This stuff is all plopping them into the wrong place at the wrong time, with Suicide Squads and people like that chasing after them. It's just like an accident waiting to happen, these two. And that's what's so fun about following them, is what mess are they going to get into next, trying to get out of messes?
I've said a couple times now, they're scrambling. Just when you think they can rest, just when you think they can, oh, okay, we're safe, no, they're in a whole other new mess. And sometimes it's even worse than the mess before. It started from the very beginning with these guys when they get caught, they escape from the Suicide Squad, only to be free-falling like 50,000 feet in the air. It's one after another, and that's why I hope to God both of these two survive. Because I really enjoy these characters. Over these issues, I'm getting attached to them. I want to see more stuff with them in it. I'd actually kind of wouldn't mind seeing another, like a limited series with these two. Maybe they try to cross over and be good guys, or even if they're not trying to be good guys, if they're just being themselves and continuing the survival of Piper and Trickster. So
I like the it's funny when you said the survival aspect. That's more of what I'd like to see. I'd like to see them again being a gray area where they have to do things to survive. Now they've been branded as killers of the Flash. Whether or not people actually believe, and there's going to be a lot of heroes that still question it. So they've got to, are they truly villains? Well, not really, but they aren't heroes either. They're kind of caught in the middle, and they have no choice a lot of times to try and just do what they can to survive. I think it'd be an interesting story. I would love following them in a series. I think you're right, like a mini-series. They would fit kind of like what was so cool about Secret Six, in the fact that Secret Six, sometime while they were bad guys, they also had a code, and they wouldn't do certain things, and that's what made their stories so interesting and why they were so fun to follow in Villains United and into Secret Six. So that's what made them fun. I think the Rogues would be fun. These two Rogues in particular would be fun to follow for a couple minis and just see, what they do. Unfortunately, I'm really worried. And I'm very worried about Piper.
Yeah, I know. And it's funny because if I had to pick, if you're to tell me one of them's going to die, you have to pick only one of them, one lives, it would be such a hard choice between the two of them. Because Trickster has just some fun moments, but Piper, you kind of think he seems like he's more of a decent fellow, that he gets just a couple breaks on his side. He could actually be a good guy.
He has been.
Yeah, and it's...
an incredible run in Mark Waid's Flash as an excellent good guy. And such a confidant. And that's why, remember in the early moments of Countdown, when you see him with the Trickster, and you see how he was thrown into this through circumstance because he was now alone because of losing Wally and Linda, you see just how much that relationship meant to him, and how it gave him an identity outside of being a rogue, and how he really didn't want to be back with them. He wishes he could have the time that he had back that happened during Waid's run. And it was neat to see that kind of contrast. I do urge anyone to pick up Mark Waid's run. If you're enjoying the Piper and Trickster storyline, start with Mike Waid's run and like Terminal Velocity and stuff like that, and kind of go through and read some of the stories where the Trickster was a confidant and a friend. And you can kind of, it adds some more punch to this particular storyline.
The backup to the story is Deathstroke's history, and I like the fact that they're doing the villains' histories in these things. You know, they're a nice, just a little taste of who the villain is. You know, it's Deathstroke, so it has to be cool because he is the coolest villain they have. You know, I still put him above Luthor, even though Luthor is an outstanding villain. There's just something about just the game that Deathstroke plays. You know, he's the master manipulator, but he's not just a thinking villain. He's a villain of action because he can throw down with the best of them. He could go toe-to-toe with the JLA, and you would believe it because he uses just strategy and just raw skill. So I'm glad to see more of Deathstroke.
And with Deathstroke, morals go out the window for him to achieve his goal. He had a relationship with a 16-year-old in Terra just to try and bring down the Titans. And it was all about revenge for his son and fulfilling that contract that his son was assigned to take out the Titans. Wow, again, just shows that his moral compass is easily bendable.
But it's funny because he does kind of have a code. You know, even though he will do anything for the contract, but there is somewhat of an assassin's code in him that he's another character that if he needed to, he would do the right thing. You know, if there was like some villain who was going to destroy the world, instead of trying to manipulate the thing so that he could be the master of the universe, he would take down that villain. You know, if there was no way that he could use it to his advantage. You know, where there are some villains who couldn't see beyond that. They would just see, hey, I got a chance. Maybe I could take over. Maybe I could be the master of the universe. Deathstroke is, I don't want to say smart enough because I don't want to imply that the other aren't smart enough, but he's able to think at multi-stage. He's the classic chess mentality where you have to think multi-moves in advance. You can't just think of the one move you're doing. You have to think of how your opponent's going to react, and then you react to that, and then you react to that.
You know what? He's one of those characters, though, that when you talk about something on that level of destroying the universe or something like that, he's another character, though, where because of his code you were mentioning, I could see him being willing to destroy the universe to honor a contract. No, he is. He's very big on his reputation, honoring a contract, what people think about him. So he's a tricky person to figure out because canceling a contract's a big deal for him.
Here, let me pose a question to you. Do you remember James Bond villain Oddjob, who, the big Korean dude who threw the razor?
He's the one who threw his hat, right?
Right, he threw the
knocked
hat.
Off the head off the statue and all that stuff, right?
The end of whatever James Bond that one was, I think it was, I want to say Goldfinger.
That was his driver.
Yeah, he and Bond are fighting. They're trapped basically right on. It was like they're sitting on top of a nuclear bomb, and if Oddjob kept fighting James Bond, the bomb would go off and he would die. But because of Oddjob's code, his was to kill James Bond, and he was going to let himself die if necessary doing that. Do you think Deathstroke would do that? if to complete his contract is to kill somebody, would he be willing to die and destroy himself with a bomb just to take out his contract?
Ooh, that's a very tough call.
Because I'll tell you my opinion.
I think he would do anything in his power to honor the contract. I also think, though, that Oddjob was more of a hired muscle for Goldfinger, whereas I see Deathstroke wanting to survive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him wanting to, and you might disagree with me on this, I don't see him wanting to give his life. I don't see that happening. I see him being willing to under certain circumstances. I think he's definitely a courageous man. I would never call Deathstroke a coward. He's definitely, I agree with you on the sense that he's got a strong code and would be willing to die for something that he believes in, but I don't necessarily see him, I don't see him doing what Oddjob did.
No, I don't see him doing that at all. I would actually see him leaving, letting Bond defuse the bomb, then right after Bond defuses the bomb, kill Bond, stabbing him in the back. That's what I would see how Deathstroke would handle that scenario. He would back off, make it look like he's leaving, say, I'm not going to sacrifice my life for this job, leave, and then come right back immediately when Bond's guard is down. That is what I see Deathstroke's code. He would, to complete the contract, he would do what he has to do, but he's not going to do it. He's not going to be so blinded that he's willing to, he'll give his life to do the contract. He'll complete the contract, but he may have to postpone it a couple minutes or even a day or a week or a month or something like that. That's how I see, Deathstroke.
He would make sure Bond blowing up, if he believed that character would blow up and that was his contract, he'd let him blow up. And if he found out he survived, he would keep following him.
Right. And you see that in the, with him completing in the Judas contract, where he picks up his son's, contract to take out the Titans. He's finishing the contract, even though it's delayed, and he's still going to finish the contract. So
you can't collect on a contract if you're dead.
Exactly.
So that doesn't fit a mercenary's role to me.
Right.
Yeah, how else can you talk about Oddjob and James Bond on a DC podcast?
The funny thing is that wasn't in my notes, by the way. That just popped in my head right as we were talking about it.
I know you have dreams about Oddjob.
Our next issue is Countdown number 35. The writer is Paul Dini.
New from NBC, Oddjob and Whatnot. A new fall comedy.
At least you're saying it's a fall comedy, not a new fall romance.
Well, Mad About You was a great fall romance comedy.
Okay, the writer is Paul Dini with Sean McKeever. Pencils by Manuel Garcia. Inks by Mark McKeenan. Colors by Pete Pantiaz. P-A-N-T-A-Z-I-S. Letterer Travis Lanham. Cover by J.G. Jones with Alex Sinclair. Assistant editors Schaefer and Garland. And editors Martz and Carlin. We open up with the Fab Four, and they're being held hostage by Queen Belphara. She's your typical evil queen with some serious magical powers. She's got Ryan locked up in this little bubble that's negated his belt powers. Jason, Donna's out for the account. Jason's in some type of energy field. Jason has a classic, Jason Todd line where he's being Mr. Sarcasm. Don't worry, Ryan. She seems like a perfectly reasonable person. Right at that point, the Queen looks at Ryan and goes, he looks like a bug, but he doesn't look like anyone that I know. Blam! Turns, Ryan into this bug-like type creature. And I'm like, wow, we're dealing with some serious power here.
She turned Ryan into a bug. That's what I love about this character. It's crazy stuff that just follows this guy. That is that could be an all-new Adam. That is exactly, again, people who do a little bit of research on these characters, if they handle them right and you put them in different books or different situations, stay true to the kind of storytelling that character would normally have, and it just so totally fits in any situation. Ryan's great. Ryan is just a fabulous character because just weird stuff follows him.
It's kind of interesting to see that Jason has this myth look about him when this happened. He's mad that, is he mad that Ryan is hurt, or is he mad that his team has just been weakened by Ryan turning into a bug thing?
It kind of fits what goes on with Batman sometimes, though. When he's in these otherworldly, magical, powerful situations sometimes, Batman gets perplexed and a little upset, too, because and we saw, again, I'm going back to Meltzer's Zero issue, where Batman talks about how small he feels sometimes in those situations because he's just a man. And it's... Again, this would be a weak moment for Jason. The Master Manipulator, Red Hood. You've seen the games that he's played in Winnick's run when they introduced him and Under the Hood, as this Red Hood character. And what we've seen from him since then in his various appearances, this would not be a comfort level situation for him. He's totally out of his element, and it was cool to see that he had a reaction like that to it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I tell you, I'm really digging seeing Jason in this stuff, and I've said that a couple times, and I'll say it a couple more times as we go on. They're showing his character, they're showing who he is, but they're not spelling it out for you. You got to look and you got to see behind the story, make assumptions, if you will, about what he's thinking, why he's thinking this way. Now, granted, this could just be us reading more into the story than what's actually there, but I don't think so. I think we are pretty much spot on with some of this stuff behind Jason. And
sometimes it's good, though, to leave a situation where your readers think about it. I don't need everything spelled out for me. Like in that moment, I didn't need some big inner dialogue from Jason Todd where he explains what he's feeling. Give me enough that let me think. I want to think when I'm reading my books. I want to enjoy it and let me kind of delve into the character's head. It's a great art moment where the art showed me just enough to make me wonder what he's thinking, and sometimes using your own imagination, whether I'm right or I'm wrong. I don't have to be always right about it, but half the fun is kind of like, what is he thinking? What is going on there? We do that when we watch television. You try to delve into a character's head. You do that when you go to a movie. You try to delve into a character's head. Not every little thing is spelled out for you, and it doesn't really need to be. Like, that's not a central focus here, but it's cool to think about. It's a geeky thing.
Yeah.
This is a geeky moment because we're taking a very small panel, and it's something that, hey, we both thought about. What is in this kid's head? It's not rattling.
Roll right into Mary and Z as the fight continues. Mary is just pounding on Z, and as she's doing this, she's like, you didn't want me to learn anything. You wanted this power all to yourself. And you can see just that how Eclipso is just continuing manipulating her. Mary goes in for the death blow, but Z pulls over a mirror, and the blast is returned right back into Mary, sending her flying out the window. And the cool moment for me is when that energy hit her, you could also see it hit Eclipso through her diamond. Mary's sent out, she's reverted back into civilian clothing, and she's locked outside of Shadowcrest. It's funny, the gate has a little dialogue when it banishes Mary, and at first I thought it was kind of cheesy, but then as I started just reading it and thinking about it, I kind of enjoyed just the whole pomp and circumstance behind it. For violations of basic ethic and decorum, and for acting in a generally nasty, evil manner, you are hereby banished. It fit. It just fit the whole proper magic and just this living entity. And it's funny, whenever I read it, I kind of hear a British accent in the back of my head. I would have done one now, but that would have just thoroughly insulted any of our listeners who are from over there. So I'm not about to try that because I have a really bad accent. But it was a cool thing for me.
What so totally worked here, though, it's a very key moment. we catch a glimpse of the real person underneath when she looks into that mirror and changes back. It's one of those things, you're faced with the darkness, the overwhelming darkness, and you've got to take a look at that and go, what is going on with me? And at that moment, she's blasted out, the feedback, and she had to face what she was doing. And you see her reaction to it afterwards, and it's an overwhelming experience for her. And this is a pivotal moment for me where I'm like, I want to see her beat this. It's what I want out of this now. When you see this glimpse, it's the first time that I've got a very set opinion on what I want now. Before I was like, well, I'd be happy either way. If it's a redemption story or if it's a Black Mary story, because I was liking, and I'm still liking the whole Black Mary concept. But in this case, when you really see her react and see this overwhelming nature of this whole thing, where you can clearly see when the hair changes back, you talked about the hair difference, and all that. In these moments, this is when I'm like, oh, I feel for her. And I want to see her beat this. Not even that I want to see her redeem, I want to see her beat it. And I want to see a strength of character come out of this. It's a story I want to rally behind. So I'm hoping I'm not saying that it's something that I think's going to happen. It's a personal want. So I'm not saying like, hey, I'm predicting this is going to happen. I don't care about that. I'm not going that route with this. I'm saying this. If I had a wish for this storyline, that's where I would like to see it go right now.
Yeah, and it is interesting when she's banished out there that we see Mary return. She's begging for a second chance, and when I was reading this, I was kind of thinking, why isn't Z giving her a second chance? Now, I'm not saying invite her back into the house. She clearly she's lost the Shadow Crest privilege. But she definitely does need a magic mentor, and, because she is just this magic powerhouse. She needs someone to guide her. In one hand, I was like, why isn't Z doing something, or why isn't, like, Shadow Crest doing something? I mean, not the Shadow Pact doing maybe something. We have this massive force of magical energy that is kind of going unnoticed, except by the evil Eclipso. And I know that's how the story is going out, and it's going to unfold, and eventually all this will be answered. But right now, part of me just...
The duality of the Shazam family really worked for me here. Because, when Billy turns into Captain Marvel, it's the wisdom of the gods and all that, and that was always the thing. When he said Shazam, he became something more than just Billy Batson. He had all these other people that were, these other, gods that were feeding him wisdom and strength and power and all these different things that were coming through, and speed and all the things that he had. So, he was thinking on a very different level because he entered Captain Marvel mode. Well, I like seeing the duality, though. When Black Mary fades away, you see a more human Mary. And you see somebody who is very kind and very overwhelmed by all this. I feel like this is a kind person who is in a situation that is totally out of her element. When you're innocent and you're put in something that is so... on the opposite end of the spectrum, and you're doing it, how do you react? How do you get out of it? The closest thing I can think of is Heroes right now. What's going on, with the girl that keeps looking in the mirror and seeing, that dark twin of herself. You're seeing the same thing here with Mary right now. It's almost, like a dark twin, that Mary's on the inside looking out and doesn't seem to know what to do. I am not saying it's the exact same thing, because that's not really fair, because it is Mary doing these things when she switches. But it really is whatever's influencing her. And it is, at this stage, I am so totally convinced it has been for a long time more than Black Adam's power. And I think that I think Eclipso's been involved a lot more than we realize for a very long stretch.
Yeah, definitely. There's, the dark influence. And I honestly really wonder how much of this is Black Adam. How much of it is something else. Part of me is actually starting to think that maybe that Black Adam we saw in the beginning of this series wasn't actually Black Adam. Maybe he was somebody else.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. See, the thing is, I think that there's a story that's being told in the Black Adam mini right now. I think that will clarify that by the time we're done, and we're not done with that yet. I'm not entirely sure yet. I don't know that I agree with you there.
Yeah, and
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. I kind of want to... I have a lot of unanswered questions in the Black Adam mini right now on what's going on there with the whole amulet thing and what's the real word and what's going on, because I'm back to thinking certain things now, but then I'm not sure, and I'm enjoying that miniseries immensely, but it's like throughout it, every time I think I've got an answer, they throw me another curveball. I'm enjoying that, but I'm not quite sure yet how it gets him to Countdown.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that I'm right. Hell, I don't even think I'm not even going to back my statement with I'm pretty sure this is what I think. These are just thoughts that are flying through my head with Mary, and it's one of those things where, what is going on? Well, it could be this. Well, it could be this. Well, it could be this. In the end, it's probably going to be something completely different or maybe even a mesh of multiple ideas. We segue right into Mr. Action. He's recovering in the satellite infirmary after his league gave him a tryout. Now, just like with Robin, they held back. And because they didn't try to kill him, his powers never kicked in. And these art panels were some really funny stuff, because you see him getting zapped by the lightning. Roy hits him with some blunt arrows. Dinah cracks him in the jaw. Vixen gives him a monkey flip. But one of the funniest parts was when Jimmy notices he's got some burn marks on his chest, and Clark kind of looks away, and you can almost hear him do that innocent innocent whistle thing, as if to say, no, it wasn't my heat vision that just fried you in the chest. No, not that.
Dude, I love the human feel of the Jimmy moments. This was his big chance to impress. It is that he thought he'd make the JLA. We've all been in a position where reality has set in and things didn't unfold quite the way we wished. We questioned ourselves and who we are, and that's what happened to him here. It's like all of a sudden, I thought I was a lock. What happened? and this really was his moment to get in with the cool guys. And, this is the kid on the playground who just didn't get in with the cool guys. It just went so horribly wrong. And we've all felt that way at some point, whether it's on a big thing or a small level. So it really is one of those guys. I think that's why he is so easy to relate to in these stories. And it's what I'm liking more and more about the character. Jimmy Olsen, you said it last time we talked about this. Jimmy Olsen must live.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm digging Jimmy. I really am digging just who he is, what his little story is, and whatnot is going on with him. That's kind of a cool thing. But, it's funny because, the league scans him, and with all their equipment, all their scanners, and they find nothing, different with him. He's perfectly normal. And a cool segue is, as Clark is telling Jimmy, you are perfectly normal, they show Holly thinking, I don't know what this is, but it's definitely not normal. Holly's getting suited up for her workshop, and her ceremonial garb is really battle armor. They give her a helmet, and she's like, this is a helmet. Like, oh no, it's your purification helmet. And then as she's standing outside the meeting, she's noticing that everybody else there is holding tridents, maces, and various weapons and whatnot. They go into the meeting, and it's right out of a scene from Gladiator. As Athena tells them, today is the day they free themselves from their past and become warriors. It's right at that moment that Holly realizes she's the only one without a weapon. And I kind of chuckled at that moment. She's looking around going, wait a minute. I'm the only one not armed here. Something's not cool going on.
Harley's nuts, dude. From worshiping Joker to worshiping Athena, she needs that person to draw off of. She does the same thing when she teams with Ivy, and it's what makes her such a great character. I know an upcoming issue of Detective penned by Dini is explaining how she would wind up at the shelter, and I've got that issue. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and read it yet. This is like so totally what I want from this character.
Yeah, Holly is right now in this Gladiator arena, and she's opening up a serious can of whoop ass, and it's cool to see because she's obviously going up against women who have no formal training, and she is effectively taking them down. One of the first ones she takes out is one who has a whip, so you see her naturally go to the weapons she's used to. other side of the arena, we have who it's very obvious that it's going to be Harley. She's another trained warrior. She's got this smiley face mask that's covering over her face, taking out anyone around her. And as the sequence ends, you have a face down between the two of them. Really a cool moment because these two are standing toe to toe. You're looking forward to the fight.
That was one of those moments you knew right away that Harley was going to be there. You've been waiting to see these two in some form of confrontation because you knew Harley wasn't going to be on the up. I mean, you knew Harley wasn't going to be on the up and up. And it was, once the moment kicked in, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I want to see. It was cool to see Catwoman, the newer Catwoman, going toe-to-toe with Harley Quinn. And seeing that Holly had stepped up. She had taken that role to being Catwoman for the longest time while Selina had her child. And this was kind of a neat little transition for this character. I had a blast with this.
Really cool fight scene segues right into another cool fight scene with Karate Kid as he's kind of facing down Equus trying to figure out what to do. It was a cool moment because it looked like the helpless female needs to be protected by the great and brave Karate Kid, but Una is in herself a superhero. She is also trained as she flips Equus over. Funny little comment that she has to Karate Kid about, sorry I hesitated, I got distracted when he called me your girlfriend. It was just a neat little thing showing that, yes, she's not just a fluff to add on to the story. She is herself a member of the Legion. She can also throw down, not as well as Val can, but she's still trained.
The double kick to Equus's knees by Karate Kid was awesome. I love seeing this guy fight. It looked fluid. It was beautiful. This was another good-looking issue.
I tell you, you're talking about good-looking issue. One of the cool things I noticed was that they showed Karate Kid's Legion flight ring on his hand. And it was something they could have very easily missed because throughout the fight scene, his hand's like in the shadows. But the artist drew it in and drew it not the bright, gold colored because it's in the shadows, but still enough that you can see it. So it was a nice little attention to detail that I digged. Val just takes out Equus with just that beautiful double kick to the knee, and just as that, Orr goes outside and stops the fight. Well, basically he saves Equus's butt because Val was just completely trashing him. Orr comes out and says he understands that Val has some questions, and he has the answers. This segues right into the monitors. They're discussing Kyle Rayner and the others. They say that Kyle's presence taints the order of the multiverse. First is Ion, then is Parallax. If he were to interact with other universes, then the contamination would become more severe. Therefore, he must be stopped before the damage is irreversible. At first, I thought this Monitor was a bad guy. Maybe he disguised one of the Darkseid's men, maybe the Monarch, maybe a Monitor from an evil Earth. But it's weird. I'm actually thinking this guy is looking out for the multiverse in his own way. He's not evil as much as he's just, misunderstood.
See, to me, it's more like that. He's a fanatic, dude. And that's how these fanatics get started. He's a powerful and he's an intelligent one. And that's why he's compelling for people. This is how a cult starts, dude. Use of fear, use of religious beliefs. He talks about the doctrine of chaos and the dogma of betrayal. I think we're going to see a more active Monitor squad from this. And this is one of those guys that it's like, whoa. And even the other Monitors, I don't know that all of them are going to be on board with this guy as it continues on. And I think we're seeing some this is he's not on a level. I don't see that. I might be wrong. There's something about him to me, it just feels wrong.
Well, basically, so what you're saying is this Monitor is saying there's weapons of mass destruction out there?
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying in the sense that I'm starting to believe less and less that he's being manipulated by somebody. I'm starting to think, though, that he is a Monitor who's a little off. And the problem is he's very smart, he's very intelligent and very compelling, and he makes an interesting argument. But that is, to me, how a cult gets started. Usually cult leaders are very intelligent people with a hint of truth to them, but where they become cult leaders is because of the fact that they take things just a little too far. And this guy's he wiped out somebody. I don't know, why didn't he put her back on her world?
If you wanted to end the displacement or end the infection, all he had to do is just snatch her up and put her in her own world. He didn't have to kill her. That's right. The second he killed her in the beginning, that right there has been my argument every time where I start thinking about his argument and thinking, okay, he's got a point. So I see what you're saying when you say that, because I do think that myself at times. But then I'm like, but he killed her. Mm-hmm. Why didn't he just put her back? And that's where, and he's trying to kill these people. Why doesn't he, now the difference with like a Jason and with a Kyle and with a Donna, they're not displaced. They're dead people that are no longer dead in their rightful world. So what's going on here? Jason Todd is our Earth's Jason Todd. I'm hoping that I know as the story flushes out, as Countdown goes on, and as the final crisis becomes known, we're going to see more of this other monitor. We're going to see behind, or maybe even a little bit more behind the scenes on why he is what he is. I hope we haven't just seen all the back history on this guy. I hope we see more on him.
So we're going to see like a behind the music with the evil monitor?
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe like a
true Hollywood story?
Well, I was thinking more like a pop-up video, kind of things pop up on it.
Oh, where it would be like a scrolling thing below?
Oh, yeah. As you're reading the issue, pop,
The evil monitor.
Next, we head right into the Challengers, or the Fab Four, or whatever you want to call them. Donna breaks free of her restraints, and she's just about to amount to serious offense, and she's blasted from behind. We see that it's Bob who shot her, and he's holding some type of energy staff. This queen, she has enough power that she can take over the mind of a monitor, which really is just one of those whoa kind of moments. She says how with the coming of the great disaster, she'll use him to open portals to other universes so that she will not only survive the disaster, but become the ruler of all creation. Once again, really classic villains, power queen, evil queen type rant. Just, it's very fitting, but it's also, again, reference to this great disaster coming. It's kind of neat how she's Palmerverse magic, and she's got this power over the monitor. So is maybe Ray's technology have some type of power over monitors, or I don't know. It just somehow Ray Palmer is playing into that.
You think Ray Palmer's doing this?
I don't know if he's... I don't know. I don't want to say he's doing this.
I'm kind of confused to how you're saying he's playing into this, because
it's
to me, she's a magical character from her own world.
See, I kind of see her as a magic from the Palmerverse. So, that's because they're pursuing Palmer into the Palmerverse, and she's inside the Palmerverse, is how I took it. So if someone inside that universe has this power over a monitor, maybe Ray somehow tapped into an energy that can control the monitors. Maybe Ray tapped in some type of...
Ray's not doing this. I'm kind of confused with what you're saying.
Okay, part of the reason everybody's after Ray, Palmer, why they're looking for him, maybe he's tapped into, the source power of the multiverse. Maybe he's tapped into the source power of the monitors, and that's the big, secret they're trying to protect by they're trying to stop him and catch him and find him. Because if you think about it, the monitors commented previously that they can't even find Ray Palmer, so he's off their radar. So, I don't know. I'm just throwing out an idea here that maybe this is how Ray is tying into this multiverse. Maybe how he's tying into the search for Ray Palmer and all that.
And you think that has something to do with her controlling Bob?
Well, I don't think it has her, but she's part of the Palmerverse. Mm-hmm. And whatever magic she's able to tap into, maybe Ray is tapping into it using his technology.
Okay, so you're not connecting him with what's actually happening.
No. I'm just saying.
You're saying what she's doing is separate from that.
Right.
You're saying maybe Ray and his journeys are picking up things along the way. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's
this is called the Palmerverse because he discovered it. Like Earth is called Earth because somebody named it Earth.
Right.
Like a street's given a name after somebody. It's not... it's just it's a place. Her power, I don't take as anything other than she just happens to be this crazy queen that, happens to have these weird magical powers.
Yeah, and I agree. I just think I don't think her magic that she's tapping into is the same type of magic that, say Z taps into or Shadow Pact taps into. She's got her own essence and energy that she's able to get into because she's in this other universe. And I think somehow Ray tapped into that as well through his technology. And whatever this unknown entity and energy is, that's what the monitors fear.
It's kind of a tricky one for me because I guess you're making connections with this that I didn't make. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just read this kind of completely differently. I took this as a stop along the way, very similar to when they go to, in the future issues, they go and visit some of the other worlds. They were also stops along the way in their search for Ray. I didn't pick it up as this was a different world than some of those other ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just to me, the big bad in this one just happened to be a magical queen. I'm not saying you're off on that. It's not a connection I made. But, I mean, I can see how you arrived at that conclusion. It's just not one that... It's kind of hard for me to grasp my head around it because it's not... I totally got this as just happened to be the big bad in this world, and they're facing her, and she just happens to have the power to control the monitor. I didn't take it beyond that, though. It's not me contradicting you. It's more of I just had a different reading experience, and my head's kind of set on mine. So it's kind of hard for me to see that, but who knows? And that's what I mean. I mean, it is one of those where maybe this is one where you're so totally dead on what you've caught. I don't think we're going to find out until we see Ray. I'm not totally set on anything as far as Ray's concerned yet. I guess my head's kind of I'm just enjoying the ride. And as I'm seeing this, though, I really saw this as just this magical, powerful being. I was like, oh my God, what did she just do to Bob? What kind of magical power allows you to control a monitor? And who are you in all this? I can see how you're thinking, well, maybe this means she's somehow connected with the source. She knows something about the multiverse. So I can see where you're getting those threads from because she knows a lot of information. I don't know.
And this is just one of those theories that I just throw out there that pop in my head. I'm not saying, oh, it must be this and this is why this and this. This is just something that as I was reading, I'm like, hey, I wonder if this is what's going on. Maybe this is a clue that we're going to later learn, as we go through the search for Ray Palmer. I don't know. But I tell you, it is a cool way to end the issue, though, with a mind-controlled monitor standing over an unconscious Donna Troy. So that was a cool way to end this issue.
Yeah, and it was, honestly, having Bob be the one that was controlled, I thought was totally cool.
Yeah.
So I really liked it, and so I don't have an answer for you on that one.
The backstory is the origin of Parallax, which was really cool looking, and I like how they took it through the whole Parallax story right up to Kyle being Parallax, and they show him as Parallax. They don't give any clues as to that he won't be Parallax, even though we see that later, and they don't give any clues as to how it may happen. So that's kind of cool that they're showing who Parallax is, and they don't show what's going to happen to him after the Sinestro Corps War. So we still don't know what the ultimate fate of Parallax is.
Yeah, and the art by Ivan Rice, to pick somebody who, has basically been doing a lot of Green Lantern work was absolutely perfect for this because it felt right at home in that particular universe. It was beautiful. It was a great couple pages. It's exactly what I want to see in it. So another great Countdown backup.
Our next issue is going to be Countdown number 34. The writer is Paul Dini with Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti. Breakdowns by Keith Giffen, pencils by Jesus Saez, inks by Jimmy Palmiotti, colors by Tom Chu, letterer Travis Lanham, cover by Talent Caldwell with J.D. Smith, assistant editors Schaefer and Gerlin, and editors Martz and Carlin.
Can we talk about how cool that cover is?
I know, dude. Oh, my God.
Talent Caldwell in the house.
Yeah.
What a beautiful-looking cover. You've got, both Rogues and Batman. It just looks really, we got to give not just to Talon Caldwell, but also kudos to J.D. Smith, because when you take a look at this cover art, it's just gorgeous. The colors are perfect, perfect shading on Batman. This is definitely one of those, one of the better Countdown covers right here.
Yeah, I got to meet Talon Caldwell at Chicago, and he seemed like a really cool guy. You know, he had a nice initial impression that he was like just mellow dude who, takes life in stride. I had him sign my Gen 13, #1 that I had previously had Gail Simone sign, so it was kind of cool that I had both their signatures on it. So it was kind of neat.
Yeah, the artwork through this whole issue for me, I talked about Jim Calafiore. Jesus Saez, it's one of those, another one where the artwork on this one it actually was very fitting of the action that was going on in this one, because this was very action-packed right from the get-go, and this is the kind of art that I really wanted to see for this.
The issue opens up with the Rogues, and once again, if it can't go from bad, it goes to worse with these guys. They're tied up, they're hanging upside down off the side of a building. They've obviously been beaten up by Deathstroke and Ivy. And then, to make matters worse, as the image backs off, you see they're hanging inside the Bat signal. So you know Bats is going to be there shortly. Just as Bats shows up and is about to start questioning about the situation, shoom, they're swished away. The Flash shows up and just, snatches them away.
I like that. Yomp.
Yeah.
You're adding sound effects to the story. The cool thing was just Batman's reaction to the whole thing, though, because you're seeing him there, and he's almost, I think because of his experience with what happened with Jason, this is a personal thing with him. Bart died, who was Wally's sidekick for the longest time, and he's connecting with this situation. So when Wally shows up, and it's kind of a reckoning, so to speak, for two of the Rogues, because they're still assuming at this point that these two guys are killers, and it is one of those moments where it's like, I can totally get where Bruce is coming from on this one and understand why he's feeling this way about the situation.
I tell you, it's going to be rough when Batman seems like he would be the lighter sentence.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about the Flash.
Yeah.
And the look on Wally's face when he comes zooming in is perfect. It's sheer determination.
I know, man. This was just a great-looking art panel. Wally has this intense look on his face, and you're reminded that this is the guy who froze inertia. So who knows what he's going to do to these yahoos. Piper's kind of like, Wally, hey, and he's not having any of it. It's, he is all business, ready to rock and roll. And I was looking forward to, this was another issue that as he gets started, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good one. This segues right into Jimmy is meeting John Henry at the Steelworks facility. John hooks him up to kind of like this meta-human scanner type thingy. It's kind of like a CAT scan, but it's more for metahuman and supernatural type stuff. John says how he was developing it for Natasha because she's been having some problems lately, which we of course see in their own series. So that's kind of a neat little tie-in. Plus, I like the fact that Jimmy is going to these different experts now to try to figure out what is exactly going on with him. He couldn't figure out on his own. He went to the JLA. When they scanned him, they didn't come up with anything. So now he's looking for other places to try to figure out what's what.
Still creeped out about this little machine, though. When you see the look on Jimmy's face, he's almost like biting his lip when he's looking at it, and it's like, oh. And I would be the same way. I'm not a big fan of going to the doctor's office. And this so totally fit what I would be feeling in that situation, so I could totally relate to Jimmy.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Once again, Jimmy Olsen is the human, realistic quality that we all have. If you're a normal person dealing with these extreme situations, you're going to have a little apprehension. You're going to be a little bit, scared or whatnot. It's normal, and Jimmy's showing normal reactions. Next we head back to Wally and the Rogues, and he drops them off at Bart's grave, just as Piper is trying to explain what's going on. couple really cool moments is you really see Wally's fury. It seems like he ran them around the world multiple times. Trickster says it was like 70 times around the world within like seconds or something like that. But is that an exaggeration? Can the Flash do that? Has he done that in the past, or is he just so pumped right now to get his hands on these guys that he's doing stuff he normally wouldn't be able to do?
Wally's tapped into the Speed Force. Believe me, if the Trickster said it, more than likely I would say, when he said, did we really? The answer is yes. And that adds more power to the whole thing. You got to remember, Wally is running on pure emotion right now. These are friends of his. And notice that his anger is most directed at Piper. This is somebody who is a close friend, a close confidant, who he trusted. And in his mind, he killed somebody who was like a little brother to him. So this is the sharpest betrayal. This knife cuts the deepest. And you see Wally's reaction to the whole thing. There was a thread on our forum where we had talked about one of our most recent episodes, and a listener said that he read 13 and said that the Rogues did not, that Piper and Trickster did not actually do this, were not actually part of the killing of Bart. And that last beatdown at the end, I went back and looked at issue 13. The panel with the last beatdown, they were both there. And I know it was a miscommunication, but it was one of those things where I'm just like, oh, God, I really wanted to see this so bad, but now I am past that now. As I'm looking at this part, I'm like, I can feel Wally's emotion, though, because these are people, in his mind, they're two of his closest friends. And the betrayal in itself, if a friend of mine did this, killed my little brother, how would I react? And what would that be like? And you want an explanation. That's why Wally's not taking it farther right now, because he wants to know why. And you see that in Wally's eyes. It's a thirst for, why did you do this? You were my friends, particularly to Piper. Why? Why did you turn on me like this? So, and which is actually all the more fitting because of when you see Piper, how upset he was over their disappearance, and how he was missing them. So it was good to see that Wally was focused more that way.
Yeah, I know. It's cool to see that this isn't just about the murder of Bart. Yeah, he is furious over that, but it is about the betrayal. And it's also about the fact that it even tells Piper, you were reformed. So you can tell that Wally had some pride that he helped reform Piper. He made Piper a legitimate person in society, and so that even adds, I think, to just the anger and just the emotion. It's betrayal of a friend, but also a failure of a hero in a way. Or am I misreading that?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I'm making these assumptions based on just what I've seen in this countdown issues. Because I didn't read the previous stuff where Piper was a good guy with Wally. I've never read any of those Wally stories. So this, just seeing the betrayal and seeing all this kind of stuff is just from these couple issues of the current Flash stuff and these countdown stuff. So
think of
what?
Think of an all-new Adam, the way we like all the people that are the professors that are helping him out. Imagine if one of them, the closest one of them, turned on him.
Panda. If Panda turns on him.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Panda turns on him. This is Panda turning on Wally. This is his Panda.
Okay.
But give much more longevity to it.
Okay, cool.
So this is Panda 3 years into the run turning on him.
Gotcha. I tell you, this had another really cool segue, between the Wally story and then back into the Challengers. Because as Wally's face-to-face with Piper, he goes, I'm giving you 2 minutes to explain yourself, and if I don't like what I hear, things are going to get ugly. And the things are going to get ugly was said by Donna Troy to the Queen Belphara. So once again, a nice flow from one to another, I like these things. It makes it seem more like one giant story and a nice flow through.
Gray and Palmiotti really penned a good issue here with Dee Dee. I love these connections. It got me excited to kind of follow what was going on, and those were nice little connections between. I don't necessarily want to see that in every issue of Countdown, but it so totally worked here, and I wouldn't mind seeing them do it again. It's just one of those things. I don't want to see it necessarily every week, but it really worked in this issue.
Once again, Donna Troy just goes on the offensive with the Queen, but as she does it, Bob blasts her with the energy staff, but Donna kind of rolls with the punches, and it seems like she either like channels the energy or just like kind of rolls with it and blasts Jason's energy prison. Once again, cool teamwork. She knows she's going up against two powerhouses. She can't do it by herself. So first thing she does is she frees the team. Jason is out and on the loose, and he immediately goes on the offensive and goes, tries to go after the Queen. Other just cool moments with him because he's like, basically saying we got to go for the kill. If we kill her, that will free Adam and probably free Adam and Bob. But it's once again it's the different sides of the two heroes because Donna isn't going to want to kill the Queen. Jason does. I like this. I like the dynamics of the challengers.
And that was the cool part, though, because logically, what Jason's saying makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's let's get the job done and move on. And it fits Jason Todd.
So as they're going on the offensive, and it's funny because the Queenie, for all her boasting and all her claims of how powerful she is, you notice she's the one who first runs. She has Bob open a portal, and she goes to escape with Bob through the portal, but it's Donna who knocks her back into the portal without Bob. And nice, cool teaser / suspenseful moment is when, as you see the Queen grab Donna and try to pull her into the portal with her. Excuse me.
And that was great. And this whole segment was so perfect, especially when the Queen's talking about the great disaster and all that. It's again tying into this whole thing. It ties into the multiverse, what's going on. This is exactly what it's adding to the mystery. Why do all these people know about this? We see the Guardians of Oa talking about this. We see her talking about it. We see Darkseid talking about it. The Monarch is talking about this. And again, it's giving me this whole multi-front feel. It's giving me this feeling that people are going to be choosing sides. And I don't know that there's just going to be two. And that's what I'm really into right now.
We head right back into Holly, and she's facing off with Harley, who is the smiley-faced masked warrior. And some cool fight scenes between the two of them. Definitely, you're showing, each of their training. The one gets the other upper hand, they turn it around on the other. Bam, 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 back and forth. And it's even one of those things where Athena stops the fight and says they're both deemed worthy of making the pilgrimage to Paradise Island and achieve full citizenship of the Amazons. Given that we know that Athena is not Athena, this is definitely going to lead to some interesting developments in the Holly story. And I'm really excited to see that we're moving this story on now, and it's going to really start having its tie-ins to the Final Crisis and all of the craziness that's going to happen there.
What's equally interesting to me, Jim, what are they going to find there?
Yeah.
Who could they find? Some, not they, almost more so. Who's Holly? Might Holly find something there? I don't know. This is really interesting as it's going on. Interested to see where this is going to, because there's been a lot of things coming out of Amazon's attack that I'm like, where are these stories going to go? And it really was the epilogue at the end of Amazon's attack, and we'll be talking about this in a little bit. It left me with some interesting threads that I want to see play out eventually. And I don't want to see them yet. But this is a good teaser that we might see some of what I want to see. So,
well, I think we're definitely going to see some of the stuff we want to see, and that's why I'm like, cool. Before we've had some pretty good stories with Holly and Harley. Now we're seeing, okay, we just kicked on the ignition. We're starting to rev up now. It's going to start kicking it into gear, and I'm looking forward to that. But I tell you, I didn't notice this before, but I noticed that at the end here, Holly's helmet was a cat head.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. I didn't notice that either.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. So you got the smiley face for Harley and the cat head for Holly. So I was like, that's
Oh, that
cool.
is really slick.
Yeah.
That is real. I wonder, it's too bad we don't know how those helmets got picked out. If Athena did it or if they did it themselves.
Now, once again, we got another pretty cool segue because we have Holly with some inner dialogue talking about how things are getting weirder. Just as they have the weirder, we see Mary Marble going into some weird type of bazaar located, in China. And speaking of bazaar, she runs into the very bizarre Clarion, whatever, at this special type of bazaar. We see that it's really just for magic users, and it even has a concealment spell hiding it from normal view. Mary, it's funny because Mary's not there looking for really like guidance or answers or anything like that. She's looking for some new tricks. She's looking for some new bang, some new oomph to put into her little magic repertoire. You're seeing, again, some more changes in her. She's not looking for the mentor. She's not looking for someone who can guide me. She's looking for her next kick. She's looking for her next big hit of the proverbial, drug that is powerful magic. It reminds me a lot of the Buffy episodes where Willow was kind of in the whole kick of the dark magic, and it was kind of like an addiction to her, and she ends up draining the energy out of that one dude, and you see the evil Willow, make its emergence, who almost destroys the universe. I'm seeing a lot of that in Mary, so...
That's a really cool connection. I didn't see that at first, but now that you're saying it, I'm like, especially in this segment, you're right. This is so totally where you can see the evil Willow making connection with other people because of the addiction. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It fits into the whole addiction thing, and that's a great connection. I loved those episodes of Buffy. You're right.
Yeah. Plus, it's also kind of cool because Clarion is basically telling her, when he's talking to her...
Wait, first of all, he told her, as a matter of factly, I'm a witch boy.
Yeah. Well, if you think about when he was on Robin, he did that. That's him.
Right.
He's very this is who I am. I'm from a hidden society of whatever the town he called, whatever the town is.
And you're right, he is a weird dude.
Yeah. But I tell you, one of the cool things, as he's talking to Mary about how the lessons that are given away for free really aren't that useful. The best stuff comes with a price. And at first I kind of didn't really think too much of the comment, but then I started thinking back to 52 when Ralph was going through all that stuff with the quote-unquote helmet of fate, when he's learning about the essence of magic. And if you think about some of the stuff, the lessons he learned about how tricky magic really is, then if you don't respect the nature of the power, you're going to be seriously screwed over. Mary's not respecting the nature of what is true magic power. And there's no such thing as a free lunch here. You have to earn and learn and be ready for what's about to come. Mary's looking for the cheap run.
That's a great analogy for this whole thing too. When you see him start talking about how you're to be surprised what passes for currency, mm-hmm. and he starts casting the magic spell over her, you just get this whole idea that you're not quite sure ever how good he is. Mm-hmm. Clarion,
Yeah.
Where does he fall in the whole thing? He's not a bad guy per se, but he's not what I would call the definite definition of a good fella either. Like, I don't see Clarion popping up on the Titans anytime soon.
No.
He's one of those characters that he kind of pops into a situation with his own agenda, and that's what I like about him. Because if something good comes out of a situation with Clarion, it seems to be just because it fits into what he was already doing.
And I tell you, another neat thing with him dealing with Mary is as he's talking to her, he tells her how, her power is word-based. And then she goes, then he quickly changes his comment to say, or it was until recently. So you have this where it was word-based, basically Shazam, and now it's whatever it is. So it's, what is it? What is Mary? And I just... I keep asking myself that as I read more. I want to know, what is Mary? What is the source of her power? Is it still, Shazam? Is it Eclipso? Is it something else? There's got to be just... that's the big mystery.
The source of her power, I still think, is Black Adam's power. I think her power she's being manipulated by Eclipso. I think what's working here, if you take a look at what's going on in Trials of Shazam, for example, and did you read Countdown to Mystery? Did you end up reading that with Dr. Fate?
Yeah.
Okay. If you take a look how they keep talking about this changing age of magic, look at what's happened with Billy. Billy's changed very much. He is now like the so-called quote-unquote wizard Shazam. His power has changed because of that. If you take a look at Freddy, the way he's earning the powers from the trial, the nature of what it means to be Captain Marvel has changed. Like he's becoming this new character, but he's becoming it through a very different journey. Mary, her powers as Black Adam are, or as the Black Mary, whatever you want to call it, are from a very different nature source than they were before because of the changing magic. So this change in magic has affected all of them in some way. So it's real interesting, and that's where I don't know. It seems to be when the powers passed on from Black Adam, they somehow changed in some capacity. Maybe there's something we haven't seen yet in Black Adam's mini that might make more sense of this.
True. See that, once again, that's very true. Because I'm going by what we've seen in the past with Black Adam, where he even still had to say Shazam to activate his powers, and he says it again to deactivate it, just like Isis and Osiris had to, had their power words that they had to say to activate the power. So maybe with the evolution of Adam in his little miniseries, he doesn't need to do it anymore. I don't know.
She did say the word, though. She did say the word initially when she got them.
Yeah. Did she?
Yeah.
Okay. But we've seen her kick in the powers without saying the word. Like with her fight with
so I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's...
Well, I don't know. Did she say it or did he or what? I don't know.
I don't think she said
Somebody
it.
said something. I don't remember back then. Somebody said Shazam.
Well, as we round off Little Clarion's dealings with Mary, he tells her that there's plenty of things that will pass off for currency. As he starts casting some type of, like, I'm going to guess, like a siphon-type spell or something like that where he's going to tap into a little bit of Mary's power. We head right over to Karate Kid dealing with Mr. Orr. Orr basically tells him that the virus that's affecting Val has similar traits to the original OMAC virus. Maybe it's some type of mutant strain of the virus that's been dormant, or maybe it's evolved throughout the multiple generations, but whatever it is, really, any chance... Hold on. Okay, whatever it is, it's, it's somehow maybe associated with OMAC. And or refers Val to Buddy Blank, who has direct access to Brother Eye. Now, Buddy Blank is known in the DCU, I'm assuming, correct?
Right.
Okay. Because I'm trying to remember my stuff when I read the OMAC Project and Brother Eye and all that stuff, and I thought Brother Eye was completely destroyed.
That was what my impression was, too, but I don't think we've seen the reveal yet for how this is Brother Eye or how Brother Eye still exists.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of, and I don't know how true this is, but like Brainiac has been destroyed or so-called destroyed multiple times. Cyborg Superman, the same thing, destroyed multiple times. These are sentient consciousnesses that seem to like latch on or leech on to some other kind of similar technology and then take it over to rebuild themselves. So you've seen Brainiac rebuild himself from the smallest, tiniest little piece of technology that he can get into. So I'm guessing that might be what happened here. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's when you think about the OMAC limited series, how the OMAC kind of survived, and then at the end of it, it looks like it was destroyed. The final panel is it not dead. So I don't know what's going on with this whole entity with OMAC, with Brother Eye, and I'm curious. Part of me, when they first started introducing this, connection to Brother Eye and OMAC, I was a little bit upset because I didn't want something like that with Val. It's weird. I don't know why. I wanted something different with him. I don't know. I still like the character. I still like how they're using him, especially after Val leaves. They show Orr talking to this mysterious person. What
don't you like about
See, that's
that?
the thing. I'm trying to put my finger on it. and I can't for some reason. It was just like a gut reaction. And normally I can tell you exactly what I like, what I didn't like about it. But for some reason, with the whole Brother Eye and OMAC connection, there's just something that's kind of like, that's triggering. Just, I don't want to say dislike, because I'm not. I'm liking the story. I'm liking where they're going with this. I like the character. I like the mystery they're putting into it and the connection to Darkseid and everything. It's just, for some reason, something with the OMAC. And I'm hoping that in a couple like issues down the road, we'll see OMAC play out a little bit more into the grand scheme of things. And I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. That's why they did that. Oh, that's kind of neat. I'm putting faith that I'm going to have that reaction eventually. Right now, it's like they're introducing too many villains, too many fronts, too many sides. I'm like, we have these things all set up. Now we're introducing OMAC into the mix.
I'm kind of confused as to, though, if Brother Eye is being controlled by somebody else or connected to somebody else. I don't know. It just feels like...
Yeah, I know, and it's, in a way, I'm glad, because really, if you think about the end of Infinite Crisis, yes, they supposedly destroyed OMAC, but he wasn't really destroyed, and so they're now completely bringing an end, hopefully in Final Crisis, to OMAC and to that whole storyline and bringing everything to a head, so that's kind of cool. But on the other... Are you
talking about Brother Eye or OMAX?
Both, because I kind of see them as one and the same.
Well, Brother Eye controls the OMAX. Brother Eye is not OMAC, though.
Right, but whenever I talk about OMAC and Brother Eye, in my head, I see the same thing. Yeah, I see one as just the entity of the other one. One's the enforcer of the other one.
One's the creator of the other one.
Right, so it's... And as I was doing my notes, I couldn't even come up with a 100% reason why I kind of didn't like this. And I hate.
Well, they're saying it evolved. It's an evolved version of the OMAC virus, which was spread all over the world.
Right.
And he contracted this somehow in the future. It looks like.
I don't want to just come across saying, "Oh, it stinks," or "I don't like this," because normally I can lay out exactly why I don't like it. There's just something about it triggering just I don't know what, and I hate to say that because it's.
It's okay if you're feeling that way.
But I hate not knowing why I'm like. There's just there's not a logical reason.
I guess when you're saying that, I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, he contracted the OMAC virus. I mean, I think if they just leave it at that, and I think we're starting to get some further explanation as the issues have continued. As we talk further, we'll talk about that. I don't have a problem with them. This is somehow a thread that's leading to the Great Disaster. I don't think we've seen yet why they did this, but the Great Disaster is somehow tied into what's going on with Val, and I don't think we're going to know what this is until we... I think we've got to follow Val's journey, and those questions are going to be answered. So, I mean, I guess the mystery you're talking about of why OMAC and why Brother Eye... I guess I'm reading it as supposed to be a mystery.
Right.
And we're not supposed to know right now, like, why they're bringing back Brother Eye, why OMAC, what does this have to do with anything?
And normally that mystery and that why would have me going, oh, yeah, cool, this is great. And I'm hoping that when we learn the why behind it, I will have that same natural excitement. But for some odd and unexplained reason, I don't have that right now. And I don't know what it is.
See, I totally liked this thread because of the way it connected Orr to Desaad and what's going on there. So, I mean, I thought this was really a cool thread. Brother Eye, we knew was still alive. I mean, from the end of that, there was kind of that glimmer of possibility. So you knew he was going to pop up at some point. It's one of those, I guess, I don't know how I'm not, like, through the roof on the whole Brother Eye reveal. I'm just not... I guess I'm kind of neutral on it right now because I want to see what they're doing with it. And I don't think I have enough info, even at this point, to say whether or not I think it's great or it's bad. It's like another thread that they're introducing, and I kind of want to see, like, okay, where are they going?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying you're wrong or anything. And I mean, it might turn out to be something where maybe I totally agree with what you're saying. I guess there's not enough here for me to go one way or another yet.
I think I figured it out.
Okay.
I think I just figured out why. And okay, when Countdown first started, and we had all these characters getting introduced, and it was a slow build as to what was going on. I was like kind of, I was kind of lukewarm. I wasn't like, oh wow, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then as things are growing on, and with the characters, and they're starting to get into the groove, I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. Well, with Val, they introduce him through Lightning Saga. They bring him through all this stuff. We're seeing some really cool fight scenes. We're seeing all this stuff, and all of a sudden, it's like the story is screeching halt and then resets back once they introduce the OMAC and Brother Eye to it. And it's that whole reset of his story. Now, granted, they're not resetting the story. It's still the same character. It's still the same story flow.
And this is the stuff that was revealed in the Oracle issues, that he was dying from something. What did you want him to be dying from?
I don't know. That's the thing. I know, and that's...
I didn't want it to be like cancer or something like that. It's kind of like you needed it to be something unique. What were you? I guess I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm really kind of curious as to, like, when Oracle revealed that he was dying from something, did you have an expectation of some sort?
No, that's the thing. It's weird. I had no expectation. I didn't know what it was going to be from, and now and it's funny because now I'm sitting there realizing it was that feeling that it was like resetting, but it's not really resetting. I'm right now working through my acceptance of the story arc now, and it's odd. I probably should have done this.
I'm really not, just so you know, I'm really not trying to argue. I'm trying to understand. Because I guess I'm having, like, when you're saying resetting, I'm like, I don't get the resetting vibe.
And
I'm not, and you if you're totally feeling that, you may be right to feel that for yourself. I guess I'm not getting that.
Here's the weird thing. As I'm talking to you, as I'm voicing this stuff out, I'm now realizing that it's kind of like I just had a breakthrough in therapy. It's this is my therapy, and I'm figuring it out. It was like I felt like his story was. I was getting in the groove of this character, and it felt like it was a reset, but it really wasn't. It was a continuation of the original story arc, so everything is still flowing through the way I was seeing it before. So, ignore my past ramblings for like the past 5-10 minutes. I apologize for them. This is cool. Okay, this is the...
Do you really think it's cool, or you see, like...
No, dude, seriously. I'm no BS, no joking around, no nothing. I was like, shaky and confused, and I was like, kind of like, what? I don't like this. I don't know what, and I was literally questioning it, but I didn't know why.
All right, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What do you like about it now that you didn't before?
Well, now...
Because you're saying it's cool now, so I guess
right.
You're making my head hurt.
I'm sorry. Dude, I'm sorry,
I really
man,
wasn't... I'm being totally serious with you.
Yeah.
I wasn't being argumentative. It was more... I was more interested in when you were saying that it was like a reset for you. It was like...
Right.
I guess I always get interested in seeing other people's side of things, even if I don't agree with it, because I wasn't getting that vibe at all. Now you're saying you think... I guess Now I'm really curious as to why is it cool all of a sudden?
Well, it's okay. It's weird. I had like a block in my head. I knew he was going there because he was sick with a virus. I knew he was sick. He was dying from something. And for some reason, the fact of revealing that it's a mutated OMAC virus, it felt like they were restarting, Val's story. And they weren't really. And I realize that now, and I'm like kicking myself for saying, Jim, you're an idiot for thinking that before. I don't know if it's.
So what's cool about it?
The fact that we have this mutant version of the current virus that was infected. He's from the future, multi-generation. So you look at a virus. It's going to evolve. It's going to change throughout time. A lot of people talk about how right now the biggie, AIDS, is, it's only a sexually transmitted disease. Well, I've read some, sci-fi short stories and stuff like that where AIDS turns into this airborne virus that, kills, that kills instantaneously instead of over a lengthy period of time. It's that same type of thing. The OMAC virus has actually evolved. It's changed. It's become a different entity, and it's inside Val. This, I don't know how this is tying into the into the great disaster, whether it's a manipulation by Darkseid, because we see Darkseid's minions, are the ones who are, manipulating and, ordering around, or trying to get Val in contact with Buddy Blank. That's where Darkseid wants him. So if Darkseid wants him somewhere there, it's probably going to be tying into his role. So it's like it's all starting to interconnect now. If that makes any sense. Yeah,
it actually does. And actually, your AIDS analogy really started to work for me, because I wasn't even thinking of the multi-generational effect of the disease.
Yeah.
Where the OMAC disease would be evolving that much over that many years. And you're right, that's a very long time and could lead to a lot of change for the OMAC virus. It was actually, the funny part was when you were doing the AIDS thing, I'm thinking to myself, does that mean the Legion, if he got that, had to wear body condoms? And what would that be like? That's the Legion of the Legion of Four Worlds. That's again another thing from the Whatnot universe.
You all just heard my ramblings.
Earth 53.
Yep.
As you were going through your whole vibe, I was so getting in tune to okay, why is he thinking this is a reset, that I was really interested in where you were getting that from. And then when you came back and said it was cool, I'm like, how did that happen? What's going on now?
That's how my mind works.
I actually no, but I mean, when you were talking about an evolution of the virus, actually, that makes me more interested in the story now. So I'm really curious to see where this is going. I'm still not 100%. I'm not clicking my heels together on it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not against it either. It's kind of more the story's continuing to move. I'm enjoying it. I like the Val story a bit. He's still the Legionnaire that I want to put a bulletproof vest on.
Oh yeah, definitely want him to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing that he is being one of the pawns of Darkseid with the chess piece being moved. And before you say anything, yes, I noticed that there was a Hawkman figure on the chessboard when they were moving the Karate Kid piece. I did notice that.
Yeah, and it's what the funny part is? You notice the Sods being very leery to manipulate Hawkman.
Yes. Well, everyone's afraid of Hawkman.
Yeah, so I noticed that. I couldn't help it. How about that battle with him and Black Adam? I'm sorry, let's move on.
Yeah.
We could lead into a whole big tangent with that baby.
Yeah, and especially since it's not in this comic, let's move on. They show Jimmy at Steelworks, and he's hooked up to the device, and it starts doing its thing. It kind of gives off images. It's not your standard scanning device where it has a readout. The readout is literally, it looks like holographic images around Jimmy. And they start showing multiple Earths. They start showing the source wall. Plus, Jimmy's head just starts to expand in serious proportion that it kind of looks like those those aliens from the old Star Trek episode that had Captain Christopher Pike in it. The big huge head dude. What?
Again, something from the Amazing Transformations of Jimmy Olsen.
Yes. Well, it is?
He's had this before, too.
Oh, cool.
Where he was super intelligent, and so, I mean, this is pulling right from his history. This is cool.
Oh, neat. See, yeah, I just thought it was kind of a cool thing with the, freakiness that is Jimmy Olsen. To add issues to it, John can't shut down the machine. Jimmy is somehow influencing it. He doesn't know how. John starts mentioning how there appears to be some type of equation, a living equation that is overloading the system, and it's going to bring down the whole building. Now, I know about the anti-life equation within the source wall. Could there possibly be an opposite equation, like a life equation, that's maybe going on?
Or could this in fact be the anti-life equation that everyone's been seeking? I don't know. Or you're right. Maybe it's the opposite. The polar opposite. Who knows? I was thinking the same thing, that there's some connection to either the anti-life equation or to something else, which would play heavily into the fact that the gods are, Darkseid and the new gods are involved in this in some capacity. So, and fits into Jimmy's experiences in the fourth world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, everything's going haywire. Jimmy can't shut it down, so John uses some good old-fashioned, improvisation with his hammer and just starts smashing the equipment. It's kind of funny. Jimmy ends up being okay, but the last thing I would be leery of doing is smashing equipment that's like hooked up to someone's brain. That's just a great way to like just fry someone's mind. And if you think about any of the sci-fi movies or anything like that where there's something going on where it's like a cybernetic link, oh, we can't break the link because it'll, kill so-and-so. Here's Jimmy, he's strapped in, and John's like, oh, well, bam.
It really was some cool moment, especially, at the end when they're sitting there talking, and, he's telling Jimmy that he needs serious help, and Jimmy's, like, worried that he's some kind of everyman. And John's like, I'm not even sure you're a man anymore. It's like, imagine coming to this person for aid, and, like, they're terrified of you now. Again, it's funny, some of Jimmy's stuff parallels Mary's in a very different way, but there are some parallels there. He's come for help from John. He can't seem to get it, and again, there's fear. Mary comes to help from Zatanna. Zatanna starts to fear the overwhelming power of Mary, and what Mary's trying to do. Mary tried to take over a lot of the magical implements and the magical power inside Zatanna's world, and that is a scary, creepy thing. So these are people, again, every time they go for help, something doesn't go right, and it's breeding more fear.
Next, we head back to the Flash, basically beating up the Trickster. It's kind of cool to see, once again, we're still seeing this rage in the Flash as he punches him in the face and, re-breaking, Trickster's nose that was previously beaten up. The Rogues, explain how they were spying on Inertia and, the other Rogues, that they didn't have anything to do with it. And then they say how Deathstroke has hardwired them with listening devices that are going to be used to eavesdrop and recon information for Deathstroke and for whatever he's got planned. Now, as soon as they said they're hardwired, the first thought that popped in my head is if they knew they were wired, why did they use Wally's real name? Granted, they didn't say his last name, but by calling him Wally, they did just limit the number of possible suspects of who the Flash is, because I thought Wally's identity was made secret again.
It was, you're right. I'm not sure.
Yeah, see, that's...
Because he did that, he had Hal do that as the Spectre.
Right.
He had him wipe that all out, so I don't know. And they said they never had a funeral for him because they thought he was coming back, so he wouldn't have had the same reveal that Bart did.
Right, so it's like... Yes, I don't know. It could just be inconsequential, but it's still, that's just something that, flashed in my head. And the issue ends with Flash looking at the Rogues saying, that they killed Bart and they deserve to die. Real cool artifact because you get the shadowing covering over Wally's face. It's kind of like, it reminded me of the black Speedster or the Black Flash or whatever that Angel of Death Flash type thing that appears whenever a Flash dies. How he was just so, you can still see the color and you can still see that it's Wally, but kind of like that shadow was brought over to him and made the costume almost look like that.
Or also, it's a nice contrast to a very dark moment for a very bright hero.
Right. Backstory for the issue is Lex Luthor's origin. And once again, this is kind of cool because I was surprised to see that they're having a young Lex knowing a young Clark Kent within current continuity. I thought the current story arc was that they didn't meet until Metropolis. So I kind of like this, that you see that their history, it goes beyond just, one of the things I like about Smallville was seeing the friendship of Lex Luthor and Clark Kent end, and the rivalry, and then the eventual knowing that they become arch enemies.
One of the things with this is post-Infinite Crisis, we haven't really had Superman's origin defined yet. There's been some changes to the universe. There's been some changes to when things happen. Who was in the Justice League first? Wonder Woman was retconned as one of the original member. There's all kinds of different things that were happening there. It's kind of tricky. Retconning to a lot of the Silver Age things that had happened previously. The DC said that we haven't seen the defined origin of Superman yet. Mm-hmm. That's something we're going to see.
Hopefully.
Well, I think right now deep down they're trying to figure out how much of Superboy can we use.
Yeah, I think once that's all settled, hopefully sometime soon they'll be able to. And I bet you that's probably why they're kind of keeping things not concrete yet, because they probably want to use Superboy in the origin, because that is just, you think about it, that is kind of a cool thing where you have the young Superman, just getting comfortable with his powers, and just, that was a very popular character, and just a very popular, with him with the Legion and just everything like that. People like that, so it's, I don't know.
Yeah, we all want it back.
Yeah,
I'm sure deep down they want it back too, but it's it's a tricky process. How do you what can we do? What are we allowed to do? I loved in this whole segment that we see the original Secret Six with Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a neat little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing President Lex Luthor and right up to 52. So it's cool stuff.
Yeah.
It was a good little origin. I like that one. All right, Jim, well, that covers us for issue 34 of Countdown. So why don't we go ahead? We've got a BK's Bullets here that we've been wanting to get to, and this one's Brent's reaction to Amazon's attack and the epilogue issue of Wonder Woman that takes place right after Amazon's attack. So why don't we go ahead and listen to that, then you and I can comment on it.
And now,
Hey Sean and Jim, this is Brent Cassina back again. This is a little addendum I wanted to add on. You see, first I wrote that listener rant that you guys responded to in the last episode, the final part of whatever episode that was. And then I recorded a BK's Bullets, and then the day after I finished editing it and editing in all the music and stuff, the episode came out and I listened to your guys' response, and so I just wanted to add on an addendum here up front instead of at the end. I thought about scrapping the whole thing and just making this the BK's Bullets, but I'll let you guys hear it since it's already done basically. So that'll be after this. I told you guys that you would not be able to convince me that it was a good ending or that there was anything positive to the story at all. You guys didn't. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. I think the way that they could have made me happier with the ending that it was Granny Goodness and all that was if they had sprinkled in issues 4, 5, and 6 that there was something bigger going on. I mean, yes, we all assumed it because we're smart comic book readers like that. And it kind of was hinted at, like, where are the gods and, why would the gods allow such a thing in the issues of Wonder Woman and Amazon's attack. But if we had seen in Amazon's attack number 4, just picture this. Wonder Woman says a line, why would the gods allow this, in one panel? And then the next panel, we just see the gods chained up. Okay, now we know there's something wrong with the Greek gods. That gives us a hint that there's something bigger going on here. Then, issue 5, we could have seen a panel of the wishing well that Granny Goodness was looking through as Athena. And we could have seen just some black hands, in shadow, looking at the wishing well going, they don't realize what's at stake here. They don't know what's going on, something like that. That would have been a direct indication that there's something bigger going on. And that would have helped build up the reader, me, and everybody else out there who was disappointed as I was, that, there's going to be a reveal at the end of issue 6. So then issue 6, you can have it as is. Granny Goodness shows up at the end as Athena. Athena shows up before then and does away with the Amazons. Then I could have gone, oh, okay, she's doing this because, just like Jim said, Themyscira is now a staging ground. It's on Earth. The Amazons are gone, the powerful force in the DCU. Okay, this ties into Countdown. I understand that. This is something larger in a larger story. And I would have been happier with that ending if they had done those things that I just said. But since there were no hints whatsoever that this was a larger story, other than we knew Circe was manipulating Hippolyta, and that she wasn't really dead after all, I think that if you're writing comics or editing comics, you've either, read enough novels to know that, the surprise ending at the end with no explanation at all as to what's really going on here doesn't work. I think, you've read enough novels or comics that you should know how a good ending goes. I mean, if you're a fan of the medium, you should know how to be able to work that. I think Will Pfeiffer could have backtracked or something, maybe put something in issue 5, or just maybe, if they put all that in issue 6 and we saw it before we did, maybe I would have said, okay, well, here's, they used the whole issue to build up to this reveal at the end, rather than just throwing it out there. And also, like in other medium, I forget, novels or movies or something, if there's some big reveal at the end, it's either foreshadowed from the beginning, how clearly it's foreshadowed is left up to the director and stuff like that, but there is some foreshadowing there, so that if you watch it again, maybe you can catch it the second time and go, oh, okay, this is really what happened. Oh, this is cool that the director put this here. But there wasn't anything like that in Amazon's Attack or in the Wonder Woman issues that I could tell that, hinted at the involvement of Granny Goodness, the new gods, or that, the Greek gods were tied up. Just a couple of lines like, why would the gods allow this? Oh, the gods have mysterious ways. Whatever. I was just completely underwhelmed by this ending, basically. I think the ending is okay with the Amazons, with them just being hidden, and maybe they'll reawaken someday and remember who they are and join the battle. But I was just really unhappy that there was no hint or clues whatsoever to Granny Goodness being the mastermind behind it all. And that's really my main issue with this story. So yeah, that's my little addendum. Thanks, guys, and here's the regular BK's Bullets right after this. Bye. Hey, everybody, this is Brent Cassina back again with another edition of BK's Bullets. I've been reading comics for a while, haven't really done anything in a long time, by my standards anyway, because nothing really came out that grabbed my attention that was good. So, something did come out that grabbed my attention, except it grabbed my attention because it's bad. So, today I'm going to be talking about Amazon's Attack number 6 and Wonder Woman number 12. Man, oh man, I just deplore these comics. I hate them. Absolutely, they made no sense. Amazon's Attack started out, it wasn't great. It started out okay, but it just went downhill from there. It had its ups and downs. I thought the Supergirl and the Wonder Girl thing, where they were so gullible as to believe that Hippolyta would listen to them and negotiate with the President of the United States, if they brought him to her. Come on, ladies. Hippolyta had been killing people willy-nilly. You saw in the first issue, those Amazons killed the father and the little boy for no reason. They've killed soldiers. They've killed civilians. They've tore Washington, D.C. to bits. There's no way that this crazy lady is gonna sit down with the president and talk terms. Because at that time, Wonder Woman was free, and they were just fighting to fight. That's what really bugs me about this war. It started out as a war because Wonder Woman was imprisoned, and then once she got out, they didn't stop. It kept going. And they didn't really explore that. I think a main part of this was because they killed Circe. I like Circe anyway. It was because they killed Circe in not even the third issue of Amazon's Attack. They did it in an issue of Wonder Woman. In this issue of Amazon's Attack number 6, Wonder Woman meets Circe and says, I thought you were dead, blah, blah, blah. And she says, no, I wasn't really dead. Explains the whole thing. But the trades have been solicited for this, I believe, or something, or at least announced. And Amazon's Attack is going to be Amazon's Attack 1 through 6. So I'm not going to get the full story if I just read the trade. If I just read Amazon's Attack 1 through 6, I'm not going to get the full story. I'm going to get the notes that says, oh, you think she died? Or how did Circe die? See Wonder Woman number, I don't know what it was, 9, 7, whatever. But that, as a reader, I don't want to have to do that. I think Amazon's Attack should have been the whole story. If they're going to launch a separate miniseries just for this storyline, have the main storyline in Amazon's Attack 1 through 6. Circe should have died in Amazon's Attack. Hippolyta and Wonder Woman should have had that fight that they had in the Wonder Woman book in Amazon's Attack. All the main plot points should have happened in the main mini. And then you can do this side stuff like they were doing in Wonder Woman. You had Nemesis and Wonder Woman escape from the Department of Metahuman Affairs or something. That's a little side story that they had in Wonder Woman. That was fine. The one where Wonder Woman had to go and get the cure for Nemesis, like an extended thing that was okay to have in the Wonder Woman book. It was another side story. But to flip-flop half the time, back and forth between Wonder Woman and Amazon's Attack was just unacceptable and dumb. I think you could have made a couple of these Amazon's Attack issues maybe double-sized or, 32 pages. If you just added a couple pages to each story and took out the bits that were in the Wonder Woman and put them in the main book, I think this miniseries would have read a lot better. I would have been happier, just in general, with this miniseries. Now, the main issues I have with this miniseries, other than the way they constructed it, they let Jodie Picoult come on Wonder Woman and basically shoved her into a corner saying, oh yeah, you have to write the other half of this war story. Well, I bet she could have written a better Wonder Woman story if she didn't have to do that. I don't understand why they let her or why Jodi Picoult let herself be pushed into this situation. Yes, I want to write Wonder Woman, but I want to write my own story. I don't want to write the other half of your story, because Pete Pfeiffer is too lazy to put it in his own damn book. Or the editor, Matt Idelson, says, oh, well, we can stretch this out over 2 books. I don't understand that logic of being a creator, especially a novelist who's coming to comics just to get shoved to the side of, an event and stuff. She could have told her own story. And she tried to do that. They're collecting Jodi Picoult's run in a trade, and it's like 5 issues, but it's 5 issues of Amazon's attack. I think it's like 2 issues of build-up and maybe 3 issues of, Amazon's attack when she tells her mother to kill her the first time she does it anyway. And stuff like that. And it's going to end, and it's just going to end out of nowhere, and it's going to see Amazon's attack. I'm so disappointed with this event. I mean, it started out okay, it had its ups and downs, but just the way it ends is just ridiculous. Speaking of the ending, let's get right to it. Wonder Woman and Hippolyta have a confrontation. There's basically a fight, but Wonder Woman says to her mother, Batman disabled Circe in the last issue, number 5. Her magic's not working, so all the decisions you make, you're making yourself. Kill me. Finish the job, do what you came out here to do. And instead of, having another fight or actually killing Wonder Woman, she just drops the sword. Yeah, that was kind of predictable. I wasn't really shocked there. But then Circe shows up again and says, you idiots, do you really think this could stop me? I mean, she's the whole mastermind. She's got her magic back. And then out of nowhere, the goddess Athena shows up. Like, from the heavens, cue the Jesus music and the Jesus rays coming down from the sun. She's not Jesus, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Just the heavenly angelic music. She's coming down, floating down from the clouds. Athena. Okay, how does she tie into this? The only other issue that Athena had appeared in was in the Wonder Woman issue, I want to say 10 or 11, where she had to go to Themyscira to get the antidote for the Stygian bees that bit Nemesis and stop like a nuclear warhead. So if you're just reading Amazon's attack in trade, you're going to go, huh? Just like I read them both, but I still had that questionable moment. So, instead of taking the Amazons and putting them back in Themyscira and maybe having the world hold them to their actions, hold them accountable, and put them under some sanctions, basically like they did for Germany after World War II, which basically what I would have done, disarm these crazy women. She takes them and makes them disappear. The fate of the Amazons is not spelled out in Amazon's attack. It's spelled out in Wonder Woman number 12. That's kind of ridiculous in itself. So Athena says the Amazons have much to answer for, but there's no hint or anything like that. The Amazons are alive, they're dead, they're back in their magical dimension, that Themyscira is like back in the regular Earth now somewhere. They're not. It doesn't say that if they're on Themyscira or not. It just doesn't say anything. They just disappear. And as that being the climax of a 6-issue miniseries, that the Amazons disappear is kind of sad. And the other thing that really bugs me is that we had the JLA in this miniseries the entire time, basically. And they didn't do anything but save people. I mean, they fought the Amazons, but Batman and his battle plan, where are you? Where was the way that they were going to stop the Amazons? It looked like they had no way to do it. And maybe Will Pfeiffer couldn't think of a good way to do it, so he just said, Athena, okay. But you know what even pissed me off more? It's not really Athena. You turn the pages and you get to the end, and Athena's on Olympus looking at the Amazons. Oh, I'm sorry, I was mistaken. You do find out what happens to them. They're living their lives as regular humans, just like Diana's trying to do, but they don't know they're Amazons. And Hippolyta has been, banished to Themyscira. She's ruling an empty kingdom. That's not really punishment. I'm sorry. I don't care whether they're under control of Circe or whatever. That's not punishment in any way, shape, or form. It's just really, really disappointing. So then you find out, you look behind Athena and all the gods are chained up to like a pillar in Olympus. And I'm going, since when is Athena evil? I was thinking it was going to be Ares, even though Ares wasn't in this miniseries at all. I think the last time we've seen him was like an issue of Teen Titans and stuff. I think it was one of the Amazon's attack tie-ins in Teen Titans the last time we saw him. But that would have been better revealed than this. I thought Ares was posing as Athena, since they're both gods of war, but it's not, a Greek god at all. It's somebody completely out of nowhere. It's Granny Goodness. Granny Goodness. What? I was complaining about things not being foreshadowed or not even being hinted at earlier, but this just comes out so far out of left field, it's ridiculous. I don't care if this thing has to tie into Countdown. It tied into Countdown. You had the Amazons attacking in the issues. I don't want Granny Goodness to be the mastermind behind the Amazons attack. You showed me in the miniseries that this attack showed no purpose whatsoever because Circe failed, basically. So this miniseries has no purpose whatsoever but to tell us that Granny Goodness has triumphed over the Olympian gods. Now, all I know about Granny Goodness is from the Superman animated show, from the Bruce Timm DCU animated universe or whatever. So she's a new god. Now, I don't know if the new gods can beat the old gods, or, how powerful this woman is, or anything like that. Does she have shape-shifting abilities? Apparently she does, because she posed as Athena. I just turned the page, and I got to this Granny Goodness reveal, and the shadow demons behind her and all that, and I just went, ugh. I bet my roommate heard me when I was reading this book. It is such utter crap. So, Sean and Jim, I posted in the rant thread, you guys, there's no way you're going to convince me this is a good ending to this book. There's no way whatsoever. It came out of left field. It was not foreshadowed anywhere. There was no hints. And there's no reason for this to be tied into Countdown at all. Another issue of suckage. I've talked about Amazon's attack. Wonder Woman number 12, written by Jay Torres, art by Paco Diaz. God, DC, please put him on a regular book. I think he's proven himself here. He's done multiple issues back to back. I think his characters are solid, better than some of the other artists DC has in their stable. Put him into rotation on Countdown. Countdown has some crappy artists. I mean, sometimes the art is okay in Countdown, sometimes the art is good, and sometimes I'm looking at it going, why did they get this guy? Where's Pat Olive? Where is, trying to think of the other guy. The 52 artists all had similar styles, and they all fit in. Sean Mole, what's Sean Mole doing? 52 artists, right? They couldn't recycle some of those guys. I mean, surely not all of them have monthly books. Joe Bennett kind of blew up because 52, his art was so good in that. I think Paco Diaz needs to be put on one of these weekly book things because he draws better, in my opinion, than any of those artists on Countdown so far. Jesus Saez or whatever, the guy who did Checkmate for a while. I like his art in Checkmate, but the stuff in Countdown has just not impressed me. It's a step below what he was doing in the OMAC project and in Countdown, in my opinion. So put Paco Diaz on a regular book. He did a great job on Nightwing and the Bruce Jones run. I keep saying it. He's doing a great job here. Please give him an exclusive contract. So Wonder Woman 12, it's the aftermath, basically, of the Amazons attack war. The Amazons' fate is spelled out better here. We see the Amazons, living as themselves. Not as themselves, but as women across the world and stuff. And what really puzzled me was the appearance of Circe, because in Amazon's attack number 6, she was condemned to Hades, to Tartarus, the Greek hell, basically. And on the third page of Wonder Woman number 12, you see her condemned to Tartarus, or it says it right there, to the underworld. But then she shows up later in the book with no explanation whatsoever as to how she got out, especially after in the main series, shouldn't she be done? I don't understand what the hell is going on here. Every man makes an appearance, and sadly, every man is not Circe. Actually, looking through it again, I think it was Nemesis posing as Circe. Oh, that makes sense. Well, it wasn't written clearly. They show Circe being condemned to Hades, and then 5 pages later, she shows up again, right? You see her on a computer monitor, and it's Diana Prince talking to 2 other Department of Metahuman Affairs agents. It leads me to believe that that's the real one. I mean, she's on a computer monitor. Did Nemesis go there already so quickly? I mean, it's not clear, the timeline whatsoever. It's so frustrating, it gives me a migraine. Anyway, move on. This basically ties up the ends with every man, with Sarge Steele. I think they find the real Sarge Steele. Yeah, he's in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And basically, the end of this book, Jay Torres undoes the most interesting part of Wonder Woman series lately was that Nemesis found out Diana Prince was Wonder Woman. He undoes it, or at least he says, I don't know what you're talking about. Or he acts like he doesn't know. Yeah, I was really looking forward to this plot point of having Diana have a boyfriend, a love interest, who knew about her double life. I mean, that was probably going to keep me on the book. Now I don't know what's going to happen in this book concerning me. I'm just so let down and disappointed in the quality and the construction of this event that I don't know what to do anymore. I'll pick up 13 because I'm gonna get 14, which is Gail Simone's first issue. So I'll try that out and just see what it's like and go from there. But just really, really disappointed. I didn't think it had time to count down at all. So those are my thoughts. Wonder Woman 12, Amazon's Attack number 6. I hope you guys didn't buy all the issues like I did. I think the only issues I did not get was Catwoman ones, because I didn't know they existed until I read the footnotes. And then that week Sean explained it, so I didn't have to listen to read it. Thank you, Sean. And was there a Supergirl one? I didn't get that, because she was in the book all, 5 minutes, 2 issues? Anyway, so yeah, Amazon's Attack, thumbs down from me, big thumbs down, and my big toe is curled down too. I don't know what I'm gonna do next, so I'll see you when I see you, and thanks for the time, as always. Bye.
Dude, Brent called. He said there's no Santa Claus. The Tooth Fairy was your parents. Dude's got to relax a bit. I just want one thing I want to clarify. It's very similar to when Jim and I were talking Countdown before. You know, a lot of times I'll share my opinion, but it's not always about, like, especially when I was talking to you about Countdown, I really wasn't trying to change your mind. It was more I was trying to understand your perspective. Similar with, like for example, I enjoyed Amazon's Attack a great deal. I don't compare it to Sinestro Corps, because Sinestro Corps, to me, series like Sinestro Corps, because that's a lot of times people are saying, how can you say Amazon's Attack was good when there's Sinestro Corps out? Well, Sinestro Corps is a once in a amazing while thing that comes out. You know, I compare it to Rebirth. Rebirth was one of those amazing series that came out. Hush was one of those amazing series that come out that all of a sudden makes you go, wow. So those are things that they're in a completely different universe, a completely different category than, shall we say, a miniseries that I consider that's a very entertaining one, like Amazon's Attack. I enjoyed this a great deal. Because Brent didn't like it, I'm not sitting here going, geez, I've got to change Brent's mind about the ending. It just doesn't enter into it for me. I don't really care. I mean, I appreciate the fact that you want to share your opinion, but I don't have this passionate desire to change your mind. I'm trying to present, and I think, you know, I mean, obviously you're trying to do it too, Jim, when you present your perspective. We're trying to present different perspectives. You throw out a whole bunch of ideas, Jim, a lot of times that are, you know, just your own ideas that you're kind of rattling off. This is what I was thinking during my experience. And you're sharing your reading experience when you were going through. I try to do the same thing with mine, but it's not an issue of changing minds. It's more of sharing a passionate experience. So the end result, like it or not, it's your reading, it's your dollar. I'm not into that. I do want to start by giving props myself to Pete Woods and Brad Anderson on the art. You know, I've seen many rants on this book, but if you ever talk about the art, and, you know, just like Up, Up, and Away and his Catwoman work, Woods' art is really sharp in this whole thing. And it is something that I think has been kind of glossed over or missed in this whole thing. And Anderson's colors really just kind of complement the whole mood. You know, this is a war that took place on our soil. And was devastating on our soil. We got to see some aftermath of this, and I mentioned Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters. But to me, the big effects and the big story here was, how did this affect the heroes on our soil? This occurred here on home. How did this affect the people in the United States? That was the major story here for me, and that's what I liked about it. Right from issue 1, they refer to Circe as an unlikely ally of Hippolyta for reasons other than her own. And you know that this is out of character for her, and that something more is happening here. It sets from the start, as you mentioned, for the readers to see that there's a mystery brewing here, that there's something more. And it's something for them to say, you know, like for the intelligent reader, hey, there's a little mystery here. I don't know. You know, I totally disagree that this needs to be spelled out in issues 4, 5, and 6. I don't need Circe telling me that there's some higher power that the person is looking on. I already was given that feeling throughout that something bigger was happening. By the sheer scope and scale of the war, and the fact that it was so blatantly discrediting the Amazons, this wasn't a war to benefit Hippolyta or people. I guess for me, I'm thinking back to 52. And, you know, like Nostradamus here might have seen signs of the multiverse coming. I had no, Jim, you pulled that one out of nowhere. I don't know how you got that. Kudos to you for catching that. But when DiDio revealed it, that's when I thought it was happening. So I didn't see that anywhere in the 52 storytelling, but it didn't diminish anything at the end, because the stories of 52 for me were of Black Adam, Steel, Renee, Booster, Buddy, and the space crew. The multiverse reveal was like a connecting thread to Infinite Crisis, and then furthering the story with the return of Alex Luthor and leading to the armies preparing for this war and countdown. It was kind of a epilogue of sorts that was a prologue to the next storytelling. I didn't feel like that was something that wasn't the meat of 52 for me, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying that it was bad. I liked it because it did the Booster story where we eventually see Mr. Mind and what was really happening there and how that all came about. It was very cool. But it wasn't something, when I look back and think about 52, I don't sit there and go to myself, wow, wasn't that multiverse reveal cool? And that wasn't, the Ralph story. I mean, that was the drama that I wanted to see. Basically, this story was about taking the heroes out of the game, leaving the Amazons without allies. If the Amazons had simply never come back, they would have returned during this brewing war on the side of the heroes to help with the coming of the great disaster. So this is now, we've taken these Amazons out of the game. Granny Goodness definitely wanted them out of the war permanently. We are still finding out her motivations and those of Monarchs, Darkseid, and others, and that's okay. I kind of want to see that spread out over time. I don't want to know what she's up to right now. I want to see this as we're learning more about these various armies that are forming. She was a new player being brought into the game, and like the multiverse reveal in 52, it just remains to be seen. I don't need that spelled out. Amazon's attack, for me, it's the emotional story. We saw some great character development of the Trinity, which is often ignored when I see a lot of rants online. I mean, this is a sharp contrast to these characters in Infinite Crisis. They were a mess. They couldn't even communicate or get along. First issue of Infinite Crisis, you see these three walking off separately. This great Infinite Crisis happens, and they can't get on the same page until Superboy's killed. Talk about events unfolding. Now you see Amazon's attack. This is a war in the United States. The Trinity's in a very different spot, and we see that in their interactions. And that, to me, when I see a villain attacking, when I see a war happening, when I see a major event happening, what's most interesting for me is, how are the heroes reacting? How are the victims reacting? That's what I want to see. That's the emotional drama. I want to see how people are reacting. I want to see what the Amazons did to these people. In the end, do I want to know who's behind all this? Yes. But what's interesting about this is we know it's Cersei, and she's causing all this. But now what we know is she wasn't doing it alone. And there was something more to it. And we don't know what Granny Goodness is up to. Why did she feel it was necessary to take the gods out of the game? What is she planning? That wasn't the story of Amazon's attack. That's a story we're still seeing unfolding right now. Why are people killing the new gods? What's happening with that? We don't know that yet. That's a story that's unfolding. This is serialized storytelling. This is not a finite universe. Amazon's attack was an event that is supposed to build more storytelling drama, just like 52 did, just like Infinite Crisis did. These aren't supposed to be finite stories. Did the war end? Absolutely. The story of the war ended. We saw the resolution of what happened with the Amazons. Right now they've been taken out of the game. Hippolyta's been resurrected. She's been demoralized and taken out of the game. And what's going to be interesting is, are we going to see, how soon are we going to see Hippolyta realize what happened? Is that something that's going to happen now as we're talking about Countdown with Holly and Harley showing up on Paradise Island? Will they meet Hippolyta? Will they not? I don't know. And I'm interested in that. Who is going to find out first that Athena is Granny Goodness? We're seeing some interactions now that let us know who she's really connected with. I'm not going to go crazy in that because you and I are going to continue talking about Countdown, and we'll go to that. But we're already seeing that in the current issues of Countdown, some of those connecting threads. But there's nothing wrong with the end of a story having an epilogue that leads into a new story. even novelists who have continuing storytelling will leave sometime that little thread that'll be a teaser to say, come on, you're going to want to keep reading because you want to see what's going to happen here. I'm not saying you had to like it. If you don't like the ending, well, it's fine. I liked the ending, but I didn't feel that Amazon's attack was the story of Granny Goodness, so I didn't need to see any more than what they gave us. They gave me a little hint that something was bigger. I felt that since the first issue, that was enough, because I think it would have taken away from some of the great moments between Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, between Wonder Woman and Hippolyta, between the humans and the metahumans. Supergirl, Wonder Girl, their stories have been advanced. Two characters that really at this point, we've seen Supergirl kind of having trouble fitting into this universe. This event has taken Supergirl and made her examine herself. Issues 21 and 22 of Supergirl, we're seeing more of that examination, and we're seeing what leads her to a brand new team. And those are direct developments of this event, where this character has now been furthered in a way that I kind of want to see at this point. I've been enjoying Supergirl's story, but I want to see some development. Wonder Girl has been pining over Connor since his death. I enjoyed it. I like how it played into 52. But now we're at a point where she's starting a relationship with Tim. How are we going to see her evolve? This is an event where she made some bad choices with Supergirl in trusting somebody who she always thought she could trust. Now she needs to reevaluate herself, who she's trusting, what she believes in, and now because of this situation she's forced, and you're seeing this in the Wonder Girl miniseries right now and in Titans, she's been forced to evaluate who she is and where she fits in this universe, and we're seeing her moving forward in a way that it's about time she does. And it's great with a new writer jumping onto Titans because we're seeing her interacting and fitting on this team in a way, especially in Titans Tomorrow, and handling a situation in a way that she probably wouldn't have handled it a year ago. That, to me, is the success of this story. It's an event, and an event, to me, if you're going to have an event, it needs to have ramifications that make sense from the storytelling. It had an ending. I've heard the argument this didn't have an ending. I don't see that. I don't think because they left some threads open, though, that that's a bad thing. Good serialized storytelling does that. It's not the story of Granny Goodness, and those threads were an epilogue meant to continue it. I'm sorry, Jim. I'm kind of rambling on about this. I don't know. What is there anything? What are your thoughts on this? Where are you at on Amazon's?
Well,
any of Brent's comments. So.
Well, first thing first, breathe. Because you're just going.
No, it's a story. Honestly, I really liked this. I really, really did.
And I tell you, there's one of the comments that Brent had. I don't want this to come across as an attack on him because Brent, I think you're a really cool dude. So hopefully you won't take this as an attack on you. But I gotta just really disagree with an opinion you had about they should have shown the gods chained up or a black hand at the wishing well or whatnot. If they had shown that kind of stuff prior to like the final panel, to me that would have been a mega spoiler, and that could have potentially ruined Amazon's attack. You think about just how upset people are about the fact that Kyle appeared as Green Lantern in Countdown and Atom, and they're saying, oh, it spoiled the whole thing about Parallax and this and that. But you think about that, the fact that he's not Parallax really shouldn't have been a big surprise to anybody, because I don't think that anyone really thought he would remain Parallax for any lengthy period of time. Showing the gods out of the ball game, showing all that stuff would have been a really major reveal prior to the ending.
You know what? It's funny when you're saying that. I will say one thing. There's been a couple people in the forum who've given me some opinions about the Kyle reveal and why it bothered them, and I kind of see it. Some of them actually genuinely thought Kyle was going to die. So the reveal was disappointing to them because they didn't assume Kyle was making out of the whole thing. So I can see that side of it, and it was hard for me to see it first because I walked in like you, assuming that he was never going to remain Parallax. So I guess if you were under the impression that Kyle was going to die, that is a very irritating thing to find out he wasn't. So I can see that side of it. The funny part is, in this storyline, I'm totally with you when you were saying that you don't want to see this reveal. We did see other hints in the other issues, though, by Athena's behavior. And I didn't want to know yet. It was cool to kind of look at Athena and say, boy, if you know anything about Athena in the DC Universe, she's really acting strange. Go to the Ruka run. Go to the Perez run. Look at her relationship with Diana. Look at the way she's reacting to her. It's a very different Athena. It's not the caring person that's been a friend almost to Diana. I don't get it. And that was the reveal. It was there. But they weren't slapping it in your face because they wanted you to question it. I guess, to me, my only issue with some of his comments where he was saying that he didn't see any of the threads, they were there. It's just they weren't slapped right in your face because they weren't supposed to be. You were supposed to, kind of glimpse them along the way. And even if you didn't, they're telling you at the end. Mm-hmm. And they came out and spelled it out for you right at the end because the Granny Goodness stuff isn't meant to do anything for Amazon's attack. It's to make you wonder what's gonna happen next. She's got the gods chained up. That has nothing to do with the war. It has to do with, okay, why did she do this? Why did she take them out of the game? Why did she take the Amazons out of the game? What does this mean for the future? That was the point of that.
See, here, one of the things I really like is, like with movies, with comics, with stories, when the ending does appear to come out of left field. When you don't see it coming, you're like, what the heck? Yeah, off the top of my head, the movie Usual Suspects, Shawshank Redemption, two really cool movies where, if when you watch it the second time, you see the ending unfolding in front of you, but the first time you're watching through it, you're like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. Maybe Amazon's attack could have had something where, like the Granny Goodness reveal, and then the next page they show like maybe one or two pages showing how she manipulated the war, how she did what she did, and just like a, kind of like the behind the scenes reveal type thing. Maybe that's something they could have put into Amazon's attack that would make things a little bit different and a little bit better. I don't know, but I like the fact that it was bam out of nowhere.
Well, and here's part of the problem with that. They did. If you take a look at that, you can say, okay, that's why Athena was behaving the way she was. They put enough of that in there. The problem is right now the Granny Goodness reveal at the end was not meant to be something to enhance Amazon's attack. Amazon's attack was about the war. This war was started by Circe. We started to see her. She resurrected Hippolyta. Why did she do this? Why did she start this war? Well, she was manipulating things. And manipulating Hippolyta for the purpose of discrediting and destroying the Amazons. That's why the Bana were brought in. The Bana were brought in to further discredit the Amazons. They took what Hippolyta was doing and further made a smear campaign by having this Amazon cell, this militant cell, go out there and make it look like the Amazons were doing even more terrorist actions than they were. Any situation that the Amazons were confronting, they went and made it that much worse. Look what happened with Air Force One. These are all things where they escalated events. They made things look worse. And it's all for what is she up to? What is she up to with these Athenian women's shelters? Those are things that you're going to find out later on. The war itself ended. We saw the completion of the war. We saw how that ended. We saw the human reaction to it. The Amazons are discredited. We know now why the heroes aren't going to be seeking them out. They're not going to be looking to them for aid. When the great disaster comes or the great war comes or the war for the multiverse, Superman's not going to say, hey, let's find some Amazons and go to a town. They're not going to do that. A major army is now off the table. Nobody's going to call for them. Somebody has just eliminated a major army. Not just the army, the gods that were supporting them as well are taken out of the game. Why? What is going on here? That's what you're supposed to be thinking at the end. It just is. It's one of those things. Sorry. I mean, you don't have to like it. I'm not saying you do. I did. I thought it was cool. It was funny, as the storyline went on, I started off kind of lukewarm to Amazon's attack. I thought the opening issue was good, but I was kind of like, all right, we got this war going on. The unfolding drama for me was really, like I said, the reaction of the heroes. And that's, one of the reasons why I ranted like I did. I wanted to just kind of clarify that this isn't just me saying book am good. I definitely have very passionate reasons why I enjoyed this. And I'm really sticking to my guns on them. The stuff with the Trinity I thought was brilliant. I'm loving what's going on with Superman Supergirl and Wonder Girl and the whole Teen Titans bit and how that fit into this. Those connecting issues were great. I loved the Banner as a concept and what they were doing. To me, adding the Granny Goodness stuff into that, it kind of goes back to what you were saying with OMAC. At first, how it felt like they were kind of pushing something else into the story. I think Granny Goodness throwing her in any earlier than they did would have been kind of like, why do we need her in here now? Our focus needs to be on the heroes and the people and how this drama's unfolding, and Hippolyta and Diana, and how they're reacting to each other, mother and daughter. Mother almost kills daughter. That stuff that, that was the drama out of this whole thing, the emotional drama of the war. When you see movies about World War II, when you see movies about, or, not even just movies, I'm talking about documentaries about World War II, you see them from different perspectives, from different camps. We saw one perspective of the Amazon War. We saw it from the human perspective, from the hero's perspective. That's the good guy's side, really. And we were kind of seeing the insight into that. We haven't seen yet what Granny Goodness was up to or why, and that's because right now we need to be figuring that out in Countdown. And that's what that epilogue was for. It ties it into Countdown, and sorry. That's what I liked about it. So I don't know. I mean, it is one of those things. I don't, he's obviously very passionate about how he feels about that. And he's not the only one.
Oh, yeah.
But when I've gone around the net, I actually have read arguments, and I'm a pretty open-minded guy. I've read a lot of arguments, though, as to why people haven't liked this book, and none of them have swayed me in any way. And that it's just a personal opinion. And you know what, we got 1,500 listeners. We can't be the only two people that read and enjoyed Amazon's Attack. I know a lot of our listeners didn't care for it. That's okay. That's your opinion, and I'm sure you've got it. And I'm sure some of them were probably, when they were listening to Brent's comments, are like, yes, finally somebody's speaking for us, and that's cool. But then on the flip side of it, I'm sure there's people who are sitting there saying, yay, somebody's finally saying something good about this book because I enjoyed it. Remember, the internet fan base, when you go to forums and things like that, they're a small portion of the reading audience. And, I'm sure there's people that enjoyed Amazon's Attack. Maybe not to the degree that I did. They might have found different elements that they liked about it than I did, and maybe they didn't like the story quite as much as I'm putting a spin on it. I did feel there were very awkward connections between Wonder Woman and Amazons, and that's one area where I definitely agree. I also agreed with him. He made a comment about the Nemesis thing, knowing about her identity. That's a part I wish they never did. I remember when we were talking about it initially, I liked it. I really did like it because I'm like, how is that going to play out? But then all of a sudden they went back and made it like it never happened, and I'm kind of like, well, why did we do that then? I don't get that part.
Yeah, that one really I was like, what are they doing? At first I thought maybe he was, faking that he didn't know, but he's not. He definitely has forgotten for some reason, whether it was the virus that he was affected with or whatnot. I'm not sure, but I dislike that. I would rather see him know, and, but I don't know.
You know what? It's funny now, though, having read the Wonder Woman annual and seeing what goes on with her when she switches into Diana Prince, let's kind of go with this identity thing and not have anyone know for a little bit. I admit I'm totally changing my tune now about that. I liked it at first, I really did, because I liked how it played out. But now that we've kind of backtracked on it, I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, well, it's kind of a good thing that he doesn't know. I just kind of wish it never happened at all now. That's my only part where I'm kind of like, why did we feel that was necessary if we were going to backtrack? Honestly, I would have been okay with it if they kept it. As him knowing. I'm with you in that, like, where it could have been some interesting storytelling. But now I'm kind of like, well, if we backtracked with it, we should have just kind of never did it and let her enjoy the Diana Prince identity. Bruce gave her this thing.
Yeah.
Why are we revealing it so soon? Clark went for years with glasses and nobody knew. Diana goes like a few issues, and now Nemesis knows. What's up with that? It was cool at first. I admit I did like it when it was initially in there, but it's one of those things in reflection now that they've kind of undone it. I'm like, well, okay, that's kind of good. It's like maybe we shouldn't have done it at all. And I'm wondering if that maybe wasn't the ultimate decision, is maybe like we shouldn't have done this. for whatever reason. I liked Amazon's attack overall, though. I really, really did. There's a few little minor things like that. I agree, the Nemesis thing, but that's minor. And the weird connections between the two, where scenes were different. And I'm not going to talk about that again, but there were definite scenes that were different between Wonder Woman and Amazon's attack, where it was the same scene that they showed. And honestly, I always preferred the Amazon's attack scene to the Wonder Woman scene. Just because, I guess, maybe I read that first. Actually, I did. In every case, I read the Amazon's attack issue before I read the Wonder Woman issue that had that same connecting scene that I liked more. And maybe that was the reason why. I liked the big brother-sister relationship, though, between the Trinity.
Yeah.
And those seem to be shown better in Amazon's attack than they were in the same scene in Wonder Woman. Now, after that scene in Wonder Woman stopped, where it was the same one, and they continued the story further, I liked the Wonder Woman issues. But it was really those scenes I'm kind of like, maybe we shouldn't have redone those. And I wish they had done the story where it was part 1 was in Amazon's. They continued part 2 into Wonder Woman, that flip-flop thing we were talking about.
Right.
It sounds like that's how they're going to do this Ra's al Ghul story, and I always prefer that. But it's kind of more of just a storytelling preference, the way I like to do those things, than anything else. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say about this one?
No, I don't know. I think we've gone over and over and over again on it, so...
Yeah, this is kind of the me. I think we should kind of table the Amazon's discussion at this point. It was a good audio comment. I was glad to hear, his thoughts on it. It's just one of those things where it gave me kind of a chance to say, too, I don't know how you feel about this, Jim. I never want this podcast to be about us changing anybody's mind. We're always sharing opinions. I know a lot of times it comes off like I'll admit I come off as trying to say that I'm right. It's more so that I like to just say, this is my opinion. I definitely have passionate beliefs about that opinion. And a lot of times, if I question somebody else's opinion, it's because I don't understand it and I want to. Because I like seeing other people's side of the story. I may not agree with it at the end, but I still like understanding it. And it was the same thing. The Countdown was a great example right now with you. When you were kind of going off on your little tangent about how you felt like it was rebooting, I really wanted to see, because I didn't see it. And I wanted to see where you were getting that from, and that was kind of a fun discussion for that for me. So I'm glad we had a chance to talk about that.
I personally want the world to think like I do. I want to change everyone's opinion and say, Jim, you are always right. So but that's just me.
Dude, you pulled that craziness out of the air about the multiverse thing and all that. I don't know how that even happened, and I still want to say you were pulling that one out of nowhere.
I don't know. I don't know how I do this.
You're the Nostradamus of this podcast. I say it was cool, because you did way back when in 52.
Well, the Nostradamus or the Nostradamus, one of the two. I don't know which I am.
That could apply to both of us, my friend. There's so many things where I was convinced this is what's going to happen. And the end result, it was so totally the opposite of what I was saying. I'm giddy when I'm right sometimes, too, because it happens so rarely. But that's half the fun of this. It's geeky speculating, finding out that you're wrong, and a lot of times finding out that you're wrong and liking what they actually are doing so much better. Because a lot of times what they are doing is much better than what I assume.
Holy caffeine!
All right. Jim, our next episode is going to be a full-blown episode, and this one's probably going to be a little lengthy as well. This is one part that we just got done with. But our next episode is going to be JLA number 11 and 12 with Art Lyon. Jim, we're also going to have an audio comment from Darth Dad on Batman and Robin, All-Star Batman and Robin number 7. So we can kind of talk about that book real quick. Did you read that?
No, I didn't.
Did you abandoned that book?
Yeah, I have officially abandoned it. I don't.
You know what? I think that would be a good one for us to listen to without you having read it. I've read it, so I can come at it from the standpoint of I've read it. You can come at it from the standpoint of listening to the audio comment, not having read it. I think that might be interesting. Does the conversation interest you enough to check it out, or do you stay where you're at and not want to read it? I think that might be an interesting way to approach this one because, take for example, the Blue Beetle audio comment from Brent. Hearing that audio comment made you want to read Blue Beetle.
Right.
Where do you wind up after our discussion? So why don't we keep it that way this time?
Okay.
And just kind of see where you're at. I've already read it, so I can be the one that comes from the standpoint I've read it. Let's have some fun with that. All right, and we want to thank our sponsor, YouBuyNow.com. You Buy Now is your toy and collectible source. The Smallville Series 2 complete action figure set is available for pre-order. Regularly $74.95, only $59.95 at youbuynow.com. Jim, this is Impulse, Green Arrow, Clark Kent, Aquaman, and Cyborg. I can see this on my desk, and I'm like banging my head against the wall, like, what am I going to do here? I can see these guys lined up on my desk walking towards me like they did in that really cool scene from Smallville. I love Smallville, but that was the whole Justice League vibe in that Justice episode was, I was geeking out at that. When Aquaman was first on the show, and he hinted on the the JLA with his little hint there. That was a geek out moment for me. To actually see them together as a mini JLA was cool. I really liked that. We're talking about the Bizarro 13-inch deluxe collector's figure. This is regularly $69.99, only $66.49. We saw these in Chicago. I've been eyeing these 13-inch figures since they started them. The Batgirl one, the Batman one, the Nightwing one was one that I've been particularly eyeing. The one that really hit me right now, though, is Bizarro, just because I told, when you and I were talking about this, because we recorded this once already, and this is one part of our lost footage from my hard drive, but one of the things that really struck me on this one, it's a conversation piece. And with a display figure that's 13 inches tall for me, at this stage, if I'm looking for that, I want people when they come in to talk about it. I want people to ask me about it. And for my friends who aren't comic fans but would have seen Superman, would know who Batman is, and Wonder Woman, these are very recognizable characters. When you look at a Bizarro, it's a weird-looking Superman. So people are going to ask about that character, and that's always kind of fun for me to have like these weird comic booky things in my room that people are going to talk about. That's what I like that in my little office. So it's one of the 13-inch figures that I'm kind of like, well, maybe is this the one I'm going to break down and buy? You know what my biggest worry is? I'm going to buy one of them. And I'm still, every time we've talked about this, Jim, I brought up that doggone Nightwing figure. It is one of those things where, like, that's all it takes. There's a Lex Luthor one that looks real cool because he's in that Legion of Doom outfit, too. The one we see him in Injustice. And I'm like, oh, man, it's a trickle effect. So I don't know. I'm on, that's another one where I might consider looking at it. They have the new Titans. This is the other one that's getting me. I'm getting something from this batch. I don't know what I'm getting yet. The new Titans Series 2 action figure set. This is $59.96 regularly, $47.96 for the set. Deathstroke, Terra, Robin, Jericho, Wolfman, and Perez. This is the run when I was geeking out about Titans 51 in our last, and in the first part of this episode, we were talking in our speeding bullets. Our top bullets. I referred to, relationships between Donna Troy and Starfire. I keep referring back to that Wolfman and Perez run as a template for the human emotional drama that I love in Titans. It's a run that's beloved, not just by me, by so many fans. To be able to have that on display and these figures that look so much like what Perez did back then, I wish these were out when I originally read those issues. I would have owned them then. So it's cool to see these figures now and know that I can display them. So I don't know. I know I'm not going to be able to get both, but I'm going to be like looking at the site and saying, oh, I just got to get one or the other. This is a big list from youbuynow.com.
Personally,
at least there's a discount.
Personally, I think you could just buy one. I don't think you'll need. If you buy one, I don't think you'll need to buy more than one. I'm sure you'll be able to control it.
Yeah. You've seen my room already,
taste, yeah.
Yeah. So, wait, I said the same thing when I bought a couple Hero Clicks.
Yeah, I know.
And that all started with, Christopher Niesman from Around Comics gave me an ambush bug. He started all that.
Oh.
So, I don't know. It's one of those crazy things. But, yeah, youbuynow.com, if you guys haven't checked that site out, they have wonderful pictures. It's great to just go and browse. So if you're ever interested in taking a look at action figures, they've got those mini busts, which are incredibly well done. Adam Hughes has done a whole series of Women of the DC Universe mini busts. If you haven't had a chance, go check those out at youbuynow.com. They've been longtime supporters of the show. So if you have an opportunity, go and check out their site. Just browse around. Take a look and see what they got there for you. Maybe you'll find something for you. They have stuff from DC. They got stuff from movies, from television, from all over. I go to the site a lot just to look around and see what the new things are that are coming out. They have wonderful full-color pictures. It's cool to see all the things that you want to get and grab one or two things that you like. And I try to keep away from the collector's sickness and not grab, like, tons of everything, but it's hard not to because the stuff looks so good now. The Adam Hughes, those busts, I'm talking about those, and that wasn't even something we were going to talk about in the ad. I was looking at those on the site. Have you seen those, Jim?
Yeah.
The mini busts that they have?
Yeah, I do.
And those look very sharp because those look like they're straight from the comic.
I know. Yeah.
I still haven't gotten the Hawkman and Hawkgirl one that I want. So I'm going to have to look on the site. Maybe that'll be the one that I'll buy one of those from YouBuyNow.com too, one of those busts. So
then you buy this, and then maybe this. Oh, maybe just this.
I know. I'm getting something. I don't know what yet. But I definitely is one of the action figure sets. So anyway, we will see you next week. We're going to be back again with Justice League number 11 and 12, our second try at this one. Thank you to Art Lyon again for agreeing to re-record that. What a crazy week, Jim. What a crazy week.
Yeah.
We recorded a little two-part episode that we had to split up so that way we got an episode out immediately. Crazy stuff.
Bye. You got to run before you can walk. Wait, hold on. So, this is what,
and it's
finally, I'm where I'm, with, threatening, it's, story, they're scrambling, it's, for violations of basic ethic and decorum, I'm moving my hands, I'm moving my whole body, dude. I'm wiggling and a-jiggling right now.
Yeah, it was that. Go ahead.
I almost had to burp there. Okay, go. Clarion. So as we see, Clarion, it's all the same.
There's an I in there.
It's a silent I. Haven't you ever heard of the silent I? Everybody knows it. He starts casting some type of... You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. I may be sneezing. No sneeze. I'm sorry. If they had showed that prior to... If they'd really showed anything like that prior to the final...